Good day, everybody, and welcome to the Ammunation. So I was just checking my alternate monitor to make sure it was going live, and it looks like we are. Welcome to the Ammunation. I'm your host, Craig Bragg. With me tonight, as always, is the irascible Irving Twin. How are you, sir?
Living the dream. How you doing?
I don't even know what irascible means, but I've heard it before, so I figured I'd use it.
Good word.
It is a good word if you know what it means, I guess. Let me see what irascible is.
You don't have to know what words mean.
What's that?
You don't have to know what words mean.
Irascible.
Words mean what I want them to mean when I say them.
Having or showing a tendency to be easily angered. Yeah, you're irascible. Used to be the angry drunk Canadian, but you don't even post shit anymore. But I'm not gonna harp on you about that. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, you know me.
Living the dream.
Living the dream.
Good on you, man. Good
Getting
on you.
by, and you were on vacation.
I was. I'm sorry I wasn't here last week, folks. But Irving Twin kept you all entertained with the Mr. 6 minutes. The next 6 minutes.
Six did all the heavy lifting. You know.
You know what, that guy, I mean, you've seen what he looks like, and you of course we know he's got that dulcet tone of voice. I don't know if dulcet's the right word, but he's just got this great voice.
Like some people think my voice is fairly deep, but his voice is deep and musical.
Yeah, he's got a melody to the way he talks. He's really good. And you know, he definitely would do well on radio. That's not to say he's got a face for radio. That's not what I'm saying.
No, he's a handsome fucking man. Like, Jesus.
Got those long fucking the long locks. He doesn't look like a spick, but he's a spick. And yeah, he's no, but he's got that voice, man. He should be on radio for sure. Anyway. Yeah, I enjoyed listening to your watching your live stream last week. You guys got into some pretty cool subjects.
It's fun. It's fun time.
Yeah. So he can come and join. I sent him a link to tonight's stream so he can join in if he wants. Anytime he likes. We got Mr. Ben Felson in the chat. He was here just a few minutes ago. In 4 minutes. Just enough time to grab a beer in the fridge. Good for you. Get your drinking on. Hi, gonna listen while playing Stardew Valley in another window. Okay. You know what? I don't judge people. You're homosexual. I'm just joking. I've never played Stardew Valley. Have you ever played it?
No, but I hear it's great.
I hear it's fun. It's very cozy. It's one of those cozy games.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else. Is it not a RPG?
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of something else then. Yeah, I'm thinking. I was thinking it's an RPG, but it's like one of those, you know, I'm going to build my house and plant my garden kind of RPGs. Am I wrong, or am I thinking of something else? I might be thinking about something else. Let's check and make sure we're simulcasting on X, because we should be. We are live there, which is good. Folks, make yourself known in the chat if you're watching. Looks like we got a few people watching. Why don't we jump right into it, Mr. Twin, with our first topic of the night? As always, do you even lift, bro? How's your fitness journey going this week?
Yeah, no, this week was just garbage. You know, what's it called? Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Yeah, busy.
Everything went to shit so much. Yeah, so much craziness. Did not get to the gym.
Buying sex dolls for Christmas.
You'd be surprised.
I'm not actually. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure that's the case. You know, if there's a product being sold, somebody takes a huge interest in it, and it's going to become a popular item for some subset of the population at Christmas time. Farming sim type with a bit of mining and simple fighting. Okay, all right. So I'm not far off. There's another one. Is it Maple Story? Maple Story was like a card game associated with like a little sort of like Farmville kind of shit going on, with a little bit of fighting. You're fighting like slimes and stuff in Maple Story. Mr. Pox Toxic is in the house. Yo, good to see you, Pox. Yeah, I also had a pretty shit week. I did not hit to the gym once. So we came back on Sunday. I had the Monday and the Tuesday off. I should have gone to the gym. But you know what? I was feeling particularly lazy, but I got my diet back in order. So obviously, when you go to one of these all-inclusive resorts, you eat a lot of rich food, and because
Mm,
you can eat, you eat a lot of it. So I was not behaving myself as much as I should have for the first half of my trip. For the second half of my trip, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the buffet in the morning at once for breakfast. I'll get the stuff I would normally get for breakfast, and I'm not gonna go back and get a whole bunch of pastries and stuff. So, so I was behaving myself better, and I did hit the gym a few times while I was on my trip.
nice.
This week I did not go to the gym at all, but I do this. My Fitbit died, and I got myself a Google Pixel, which has got Fitbit in it. But
Cool.
it reminds me every hour to get up and move, right?
Mm,
So what I've been doing as well as moving, doing my steps, is I'll stop and I'll do 10 push-ups. Sometimes diamond push-ups, sometimes just regular push-ups. So that helps. But man, you suffer from shoulder impingement. I still have shoulder impingement in both shoulders, and it's driving me nuts. Just doing push-ups is a real pain. So I wanted, you said you did some exercises with bands to help alleviate that.
yes,
What
sir.
what band exercises did you do to help
Uh,
alleviate your impingement?
holding the bands overhead
Overhead like that,
and
and then
bring
just
them
stretch
down.
them down to your side?
Yep, to
Okay,
straight,
I'll try that.
and then in front and
And
out.
stretch them. Okay, I'll try that because I have bands here at home. So
Yeah, and just make sure you're trying to keep your shoulders. Don't let your shoulders do this. Keep your
yeah,
shoulders here. Right.
yeah, yeah. It's a real pain. Like just putting on a shirt is like driving me nuts. Like I feel this sharp pain in my shoulders when I'm putting on a shirt, or when I'm reaching for something in the top cupboard. It's like, oh my god, what the hell? But it is what it is. I'm sure I'll get over it. I'm sure I'll fix it. But But you weren't able to hit the gym very much this week either?
No, no. I mean, like I was to a degree getting more physical labor at my job because of how
Yeah, because
hectic
of
it
how
is,
busy you
right?
are.
But yeah, you know.
Actual exercise. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I've just been feeling less inclined to go to the gym lately. I don't know if it's the asthma, because I mentioned this to you before we started.
That would
Uh,
do it.
I've got asthma. I'm 54 years old, and I've all of a sudden got asthma. Never had it when I was a kid. Uh, I was never an athlete, and then all of a sudden, boom! I can't breathe very well. So I spoke to an allergist earlier this week. We did the test where they prick your arm and they put a whole bunch of shit on it, and then they test to see what you're allergic to. So it turns out I'm allergic to birch pollen, all types of grass, and ragweed. Those are the things that I had the strongest response to. Dogs, no. Cats, no, not really. Dust, not even dust. And I was thinking, oh, it's got to be dust. My house is dusty. Got a lot of carpet in here. It's an older house. We don't have a really great filtration, like furnace duct system. So I was thinking that's must be it. I'm not allergic to dust. So I'm like, okay, so what is it? Well, I get buildup of mucus. It goes down into my breathing passage, and I get mucus and phlegm in my throat, and I get shortness of breath sometimes when I exert myself. So I'm now on a puffer. It's a steroid and puffer. As opposed to taking it like twice a day in the morning and in the evening, I'm taking it 6 times a day, and it seems to be helping. But yeah, and the allergist said when you go to the gym, take it before you go to the gym because it will help you breathe better while you're at the gym because it's got a steroid in it, right?
Yeah.
Plus it's got a bronchodilator. So got 6 here. Hey there, Craig and Irving. Here you guys got some new reading material. Hey, Costin and Pox. Yeah, I picked up your prequel book to which is what is it called again?
Wait, no, you can't. You can't. You can't.
Why?
Because he's keeping them separate for some reason and he's put himself in a spot. And as long as he wants to keep 6 separate from his nom de guerre, his nom de plume.
Oh, fair enough. My mistake.
Yeah.
I picked up a book by an author, which is good. One
But
criticism I have is I can't read part of it because it's in Spanish. But that's okay. I'll Google translate it. It's all right.
So until he figures out how to do that or just gives up on keeping the two things separate, right?
Yeah.
Then Yeah, we can't really say the name of it. I have not yet started reading it, but I have it right here. I'm not going to show it to anyone.
I picked up a graphic novel. Speaking of reading material, yeah, I picked up a graphic novel recently. It was featured on a YouTube channel I watched called Spider-Man Life Story. Have you read this?
No.
So it's by the guy, the artist by the guy who did the first 100 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man,
Okay.
whose name escapes me, but the art's really solid. And basically, it's a 6-issue trade paperback. It was a mini series, and what it did was it covered the story of Spider-Man through the decades. So the first issue is the 1960s, second issue is 1970s, third blah blah blah, all the way up, right? So for 6 decades, and it's not the exact stories from those decades, but it has one sort of 25-30 page story that sort of encapsulates the highlights of that decade. So the big main story that happened in the 60s, Spider-Man confronting what's his name, Green Goblin, that was the 60s. Now I've just started the second book in the series, so it's kind of interesting. So and the cool thing is the 60s, because of Vietnam, they're drawing on that sort of historical touch point with the real world, and I'm sure it was touched on in the comic books too back in the day. But they're sort of laying the groundwork for the Marvel Civil War between Cap and Iron Man, because throughout the first issue, Spider-Man's like, oh, should I go to Vietnam or should I not? Flash Thompson's going to Vietnam, fuck, I have all this power, maybe I should go there and use it for good, right? And then he gets in touch with Captain America, and Captain America says, yeah, I'm going because I need to see what this is all about. I've been hearing a lot of things, and I've been a soldier, and my inclination is to go, but I need to find out what's going on. So he goes, right? And of course, Iron Man's going because he's, at the time, everybody thought he's the bodyguard of rich industrialist Tony Stark, weapons manufacturer, right? They didn't realize they were one and the same at that time. And he's there fighting, but they laid the groundwork for Marvel's Civil War. Captain America ends up being in Vietnam, and he's actually helping on fight on behalf of the citizens of North Vietnam, right? Not the Viet Cong, but just regular people who got caught up in it and were targeted as Cong because they happen to be there. Whereas Iron Man, of course, he's fighting for Uncle Sam. But anyway, it's really good. I really like it so far because it's the way it's been written is it definitely feels like the era. So the 1960s issue, the styling of the art, the dialogue, it's all very 1960s. So it's really good. I'm inclined to, I'm very curious to see how it's going to unfold. But so far, I'm really enjoying it. What convention did you violate, Irving? And was she cosplaying Samus Aran? I don't know what he's referring to. Oh, is he talking about the convention of nom de guerre or nom de plume and?
I don't get the entire reference, but my little tag there says convention violator.
Convention violator. Yeah. What? Okay, I see. What convention are you violating?
Something had come up today. I was talking about like it just reminded me of something. You know what the Geneva Convention is, right?
Yes. It's a if I'm not mistaken, it's a series of agreements amongst nations who have signed it that they are going to behave a certain way in times of conflict. They won't violate certain codes of conduct. Is that correct?
That is the common misconception held by almost everyone who knows of it.
Okay.
What it actually is a list of things Canadian soldiers did to their enemies during World War I. Literally.
Yeah.
It is literally a list of things Canadian soldiers after World War I. They wrote this up and went, okay, so no one does that anymore.
Yeah, I've
Okay.
heard of this. Actually, a buddy of mine sent a link to it. Something to do with the Devil's Brigade.
That's one of them. Yeah. The Devil's Brigade, they were pretty terrible. Um, but even just in general, like,
Yeah,
so during the first year, the first Christmas,
yeah,
there was like a truce called
yeah.
on the front lines between the trenches, and guys came out of the trenches, they sang Christmas carols together, whatever,
They
whatever.
exchange cigarettes and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and the next day went back. Okay, well, after that,
Mhm.
Canadian soldiers really got hit hard. They were usually in the front. They were in some of the most terrible battles, taking very bad hits. So by the second Christmas, they went ahead and waved about and cigars and stuff. And as soon as Germans came up out of the trenches, they opened machine gun fire on them.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they would put together makeshift weapons, sneak up like with black painted faces through right to get into the trenches and slaughter as many people as they could and then get
Wow.
out again. This was not even the Devil's Brigade. This was just
Yeah.
completely unprompted. Like they were not given orders to do this. It would be like groups of 10 or 15 guys going, I'm bored. It's the middle of the night. You want to go kill some Germans? And they would just go do it.
That's
They
hilarious.
stopped taking prisoners even after they had developed this reputation as vicious monsters. So they'd come over the trench lines and guys would throw down their guns. They would just murder them all.
Yeah, that's brutal, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's a lot of reasons they say it happened. No one's really sure why Canadians absolutely lost their shit in the First World War. It is
you know the
true.
dress of army green today? I don't know why. I just happened to choose it, but it's kind of appropriate, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? The simulation is it just does things.
Yep. All right, let's share this. We can talk about it. This is poignant. A buddy of mine sent this to me earlier, so maybe this will answer some questions. I'll go full screen on it, and here we go.
Why do Canadians go ballistic in war? Ah, Canadians. We all know the stereotype. Nice, friendly, and extremely apologetic. If you're
Okay, now I've never gotten that we're extremely apologetic, but this is a common phrase that people use when when I'm in the United States. They're like, "Oh, you're going to say sorry to me now?" I'm like, "We don't say sorry that often. We're just very polite. We tend to be polite." But in any event, did I tell you I had a custom plate carrier made that's got the word "sorry" in script on the front of it, and then the Canada Man logo. This is for when I go to Virginia. But anyway, um, keep watching.
fighting them, though, avoid them at all costs, because for some strange reason, these usually calm maple leaf lovers go absolutely ballistic when there's a war on. Trench raids. In World War I, the only thing scarier than going on a trench raid was to be on the receiving end of a Canadian one. Soon after their deployment, the Canucks earned a fearsome reputation as enthusiastic and innovative practitioners of this brutal art. To maximize stealth, they were known to blacken their faces and to wear thick rubber gloves. They also brought along with them a variety of handmade weapons to optimize their killing effectiveness, such as spiked clubs, knives, and brass knuckles, to allow them to take out enemies silently. Alternatively, pipe bombs and grenade catapults were used if they preferred to go in guns blazing. On operation, the Canadians tore through trenches so quickly and with such cold-blooded efficiency that by the end of the war, they were able to reach up to 1 kilometer behind enemy lines. Their speed and ferocity earned them the nicknames from the terrified Germans, ranging from stormtroopers to wild colonials.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Stormtroopers was like a phrase that was given to the Canadians, and that's where the term comes from. You still there, man? I lost him. Oh no, I lost Twin. What happened? I'll join you guys next hour. Next takeaway, a Canadian maple syrup. They go kind of nuts, eh? It's true. Never. Where's Twin? Twin, come back. All right, I'm gonna continue playing this. You guys can watch and we can talk about it. Hopefully Twin comes back soon.
The savage determination of the Canadians was most on show in the 4 months leading up to the Battle of Vimy Ridge, where they conducted 55 raids. The most disastrous of these happened in March of 1917, involving over 1,300 soldiers, despite suffering an appalling 43% casualty rate and being constantly gassed. One group of raiders was able to clear a 450-meter section of the German trench.
Holy crap. Yeah, man, gas warfare, pretty rough.
Killing prisoners of war. When they weren't going on deadly nighttime raids, the Canadians could usually be found slaughtering prisoners of war. Shockingly, in World War I, the murder of German POWs was actively encouraged by some commanders. Before the attack on Vimy Ridge, for instance, one soldier recalled how an officer told him, "Remember, no prisoners, they'll just eat your rations." Having to share already
It's true. It's true. It's kind of like the way they talked about. This was revealed to me. I guess when Brits used to, back in the day, when English longbowmen were feared as being deadly longbowmen, and when they were fighting against the French wanted them to. Wanted the soldiers to basically, they put a bounty on English bowmen's fingers, and this is why this hand gesture was kind of like considered a "fuck you," is to say that the English longbowmen were saying "fuck you," I've still got my fingers. Twins back, and so welcome back, sir. And so yeah, what they would do is they would catch English longbowmen, they would chop their fingers off, and then they'd send them back, because then they become the country's problem, right? They can't do anything, so you got to feed them. They basically become useless mouths to the forces. So yeah, so the idea, what you mentioned here is they would kill prisoners because. Don't keep the prisoners because they'll just eat your rations.
Speaking of rations, did you get to the corned beef?
Not yet. Have you seen this already?
I've seen this before. Yeah,
we're in the middle. I just stopped to talk about the English longbowmen.
Limited food supplies was just one of the reasons why most preferred to shoot rather than capture. But the most powerful justifications were revenge and battle rage. In a typical account, one lieutenant would recall how, after losing half of his company to machine gun fire, his surviving men rushed to the battery that had caused the damage to find the Germans inside crying and with their hands up. Unmoved, they proceeded to mercilessly bludgeon and shoot them to death.
Can you pause?
Another would relate on one occasion, a German rushed to one of his comrades with a bayonet, but then chickened out and surrendered. In his own words, "Our boy would have none of it. He lunged at the German again and again, who each time lowered his arms and stopped the point of the bayonet with his bare hands. The German was screaming for mercy." Even if a surrendering German somehow survived his initial encounter with a wild colonial, his life was still in great danger. In this regard, one veteran would remember how he once witnessed one of his fellow Canadians turn a German POW into red mist by dropping a live grenade into his greatcoat pocket.
That's fucked up, man.
It's amazing how brutal this is, considering they're drawn exactly like South Park draws Canadians.
True, right?
Don't have the bobblehead.
Yeah. You're such an asshole, Terrence. Anyway, yeah, that's fucked up.
Live and let die. During World War I, soldiers carried out an unofficial live and let live policy. This was an unspoken agreement in which both sides agreed to only attack each other if ordered. The most famous example of this in action was the unofficial 1914 Christmas Day truce, in which thousands of combatants from both sides exchanged gifts, sang carols, and mingled with each other for a few hours. The next year, though, the Canucks were on the front lines, and unlike their allies, live and let live was not in their vocabulary. Among their number were the troops of the 3rd Battalion, who were stationed in the Ypres salient on the Western Front. In the spirit of the previous year, voices from the opposing trench wished them a happy Christmas, and some of the friendlier Canucks returned the greetings. After a couple of minutes, men from both sides had raised their heads above the dugouts, and an older, whiskered man was invitingly waving a box of cigars. Moments later, a Canadian sergeant ruined Christmas by dispatching 2 Germans with his machine gun.
I mean, it is fucking war.
Did they?
And you know what? And the thing about, you know, the whole Christmas thing the previous year, that was the anomaly. That's what made it stand out. Because this is war. You're trying to defeat your enemy at all costs. The fact that you would have it like a 1-day truce, you know, just sort of, it's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of strange and odd to do it. It's not like, oh, people would naturally, you know, get along if only, you know, they were given the opportunity. No, people fight wars. And, you know, as a matter of fact, we've got more years of conflict than I think we do of peace when it comes right down to it. The 20th century's, you know, remarkable for how much peace there was as opposed to how much war there's been over the history of human civilization. So you were going to say something.
Oh, just did like they're talking about justifications like revenge and stuff. Have they explained sort of the shit show Canadian soldiers went through?
They did talk about how, yeah, they took extreme losses. And well, the one about the, you know, the machine gun nest.
Yeah.
After losing so many, they just fucking screw it. We're storming it. And then they, you know, while the machine gun nest guys were crying and asking for forgiveness, they just said, fuck you. And they killed them. Yeah.
There was also they'll get to it about the gas attacks.
Yeah, they did talk about the gas attacks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's fucking brutal.
Of course, this wouldn't be the last time the Germans of the Great War were tricked into a false sense of security by their heartless North American foe.
Corned beef.
In one particularly cruel episode, Canuck troops tossed tins of corned beef into a German trench. Then, when they heard their requests for more, they lobbed grenades at them instead. As the stories so far have illustrated, for some reason, Canadians went absolutely bananas in World War I. But why were they so angry? Some historians have argued their ruthlessness was an emotional response to a battlefield rumor about the so-called crucified Canadian, an officer who was supposedly crucified to a barn door near Ypres. Others have speculated their thirst for revenge drew from their traumatic experience at the harrowing 1915 Second Battle of Ypres, during which Canadians took the brunt of the first ever German poison gas attack of the war.
Yeah, so now are poison gas attacks, are they prohibited in the Geneva Convention?
They are now, yes.
Yeah, well, because you reap what you fucking sow. You know, anyway.
The best explanation, however, may be the simple fact that Canadians were brutalized more than any others because they were always being placed in the first wave of attacks.
Yep.
Juno Beach. By the close of the Great War, Canadians had gone from a relatively unknown fighting force to one of the planet's most feared and respected military outfits. It was with this hard-earned reputation that they would enter the killing fields of World War II to face off against a German army reinforced by elite units with a strangely familiar name, Stormtroopers. On June 6, 1944, the Canadians reminded everyone of their elite status when they pulled off what's considered one of the most tactically successful operations of D-Day. Their objective was to storm Juno Beach and then seize the cities of Caen and Bayeux with 14,000 soldiers and 1,000 paratroopers. During the first wave, 3,000 lion-hearted Canadians rushed towards German pillboxes, taking heavy casualties. They were then followed in by tanks, which obliterated most of the German beach defenses, allowing infantrymen to swarm in and begin close-quarters fighting. Impressively, it took them less than 2 hours to secure their first route off the beach at the small town of Courcelles. By the end of the day, Courcelles-sur-Mer, Saint-Aubin-sur-Mer, and Colombier-sur-Soleil had all fallen, and the
Okay, so why didn't they just send the tanks in first with the Canadians behind the tanks? The tanks were the ones who took out the pillboxes. Why didn't they?
Because
the Canadians, they're really there just to deplete their fucking ammunition reserves. Is that the idea?
No. Anti-tank weapons can be fired from the pillboxes, so you have to get in and start doing damage, so that your incredibly expensive armor that's coming out of the water. So this is the other thing. These were aquatic tanks.
Yeah.
They were basically like they had a stupid fucking like a balloon on the top of them, and they were just buoyant enough that it's not a balloon, like it's an open top, right?
Yeah.
But it was just buoyant enough that it had maybe 8 to 12 inches of the air pocket above the water. So one errant wave could put water in it and sink the whole tank.
Got it.
Right. And so they're basically sneaking aquatic tanks from the ocean, right, onto the beach. And yeah, those tanks are, and you're very limited, right? If you lose a tank, you're not getting any like backup. You're not getting reinforcements.
So Canadians were there basically, keep them occupied while we can get the tanks in to finally destroy those pillboxes. Yeah.
And get the anti-tank weaponry, right? Like you have to try it.
Yeah, you got to take out the people who've got the anti-tank weapons.
Yeah. So
tank regiment.
Sorry.
So they mentioned was 14,000 soldiers, 1,000 paratroopers.
I don't know if we got to that yet.
The first Hussars were at the Cannes-Bayou highway intersection, making them the only Allied unit on D-Day to actually reach their final objective. The Devil's Brigade.
Okay, hold on. So yeah, that Juno Beach had 1,000 paratroopers. Juno Beach had significantly less resistance than the Americans found on their beaches. And the paratroopers, the Canadian paratroopers, really got fucked. It did not. Their jump did not go well. They did not land well. Most of them were stuck in trees. 3 of those paratroopers are my great uncles.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
World War II, the Canadians distinguished themselves not only as dependable infantrymen, but also as skilled commandos in a joint American-Canadian unit called the 1st Special Service Force, better known as the Devil's Brigade, or the Black Devils. The Devil's Brigade was formed in June 1942 and had only accepted individuals into its ranks who were already well acquainted with survival and the outdoors. As a result, former skiers, parachutists, hunters, lumberjacks, trappers, and game wardens made up the majority of its personnel. These hard and rugged men were transformed into killing machines via a brutal training regime that involved 100-mile speed marches and specialist training with all sorts of weapons, explosives, and vehicles. To strike fear into their enemies' hearts on the battlefield, they placed a calling card on the dead, emblazoned with the phrase, "The worst is yet to come." In German.
That's pretty awesome. USA, Canada, das Stick und kommt noch.
So what they're not mentioning here, you know the Inglourious Basterds movie?
Yeah.
And they would carve the swastika into their foreheads or whatever. Ha ha ha, cute.
Yeah.
So the Devil's Brigade would also very much disfigure these bodies they would leave behind with this color.
Oh, really? Eh?
Oh, yeah.
With
the
words, or what would they do?
Oh no, like remove ears and noses and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like think cartel. Yeah. Like I don't know for certain that they would remove genitals and shove them in the mouth of the dead man.
Wow.
Yeah.
German. The Black Devils were assigned the most dangerous assignments, with one of their most iconic missions taking place in December of 1943 at the mountain peak of Monte la Defensa, southeast of Rome. For about a month, multiple British, Canadian, and American assaults attempting to dislodge the Germans at the top had been wiped out one after the other. By the time the Devil's Brigade arrived on the scene, Monte la Defensa had been battered with over 200,000 shells, earning it the nickname the $1 Million Hill. At 1:30 a.m. on December 3rd, carrying 60-pound rucksacks as well as knives, guns, and bayonets, and with charcoal-blackened faces, 600 men of the 1st Special Service Force began climbing up the near-vertical cliff face as fog and swirling snow enveloped the mountain. A little before 6 a.m., they reached the summit and began quietly slitting the throats of sentries.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, like,
So
that's very effective way of fucking fighting war, man. Guerrilla warfare
think about this.
works for a reason, you know what I mean? Like,
at 1:30 a.m., they began their ascent.
yeah. Well, they're covered with darkness. Right?
At 6 a.m., they reached the top. They climbed for 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
And then went to battle.
Yeah.
With 60-pound packs.
Well, I don't think they took the packs up the hill, up the cliff face. They probably wouldn't have taken the packs up the cliff face. They probably would have taken, their knives, their bayonets, whatever. But they rucked those 60-pound packs to the hill, yeah. But either way, like,
hours.
It's funny because people are talking about
that's some Viking shit.
It is. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but you know how Canada wants to confiscate a whole shitload more guns and then send them off to Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
Well, people are commenting on this post saying, yeah, you know what? You send these 22, because basically a lot of these are semi-automatic 22s. They're just black and they look scary.
Yeah.
Right? And they're sending those off to Ukraine. And people are saying they'll just, if the Ukrainian soldiers got these, they would, they'd be at an advantage simply because the Russians would die laughing at what they but I'm like, if you got put out into a combat situation with one of these guns that they're going to confiscate, you'd be better off just fucking laying low, not even firing the damn thing. Just lay low until cover of darkness. Take a knife and just fucking wait until they're all asleep and they go and slit throats. So maybe I got some instincts, some Canadian soldier instincts. Because I mean, like, yeah, what's the point of having a 22 when they're shooting, AKs? It makes no sense.
7.62.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, all of a sudden, a rock slide gave away their position and the enemy opened fire. The fighting was intense and both sides suffered heavy losses, but the battle-hardened Germans were eventually expelled. In a mere 2 hours, the month-long standoff had been ended by a force that was 10 times smaller than the combined Allied force that had up until then failed to take Monte la Defensa. With a little help from the Americans, they had shown that once again, that to mess with a Canadian in wartime is to sign your own death warrant.
Yeah, man, that's and look where we are now, because Canadian forces are not the fighting force that they used to be, man.
No. They're not as well funded, but they are as well trained.
Yeah, but they've also been infected with the DEI horseshit.
Don't say those things about Jeremy McKenzie and his ilk. It's not the soldiers. It's the command, right?
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
But it's not like. But I read this thing while people were talking about this, and someone had figured it out, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is perfect!" Right? Some people will tell you there's no Canadian culture, right? That we're a post national state or whatever.
Right? Yeah.
And they're like, why would people behave like this, right? Why would Canadians, known for being so polite? It's like, no. Hold on. You're the psychotic spawn of a mad fur trapper and a seasonally depressed farmer, hardened by brutal winters and dark humor because horrible things happen all the time. Combine that with a dash of British stiff upper lip, a fuckload of liquor, and a pinch of French nihilism. That's the recipe for a Canadian.
There you go. It's true. It's all true. Yeah, so maybe the reason we say sorry all the time is because we have a collective guilt. Collective unconscious guilt for all the terrible shit that our ancestors did in WW1 and WW2.
Well, there's even stories later on, and I'm not sure exactly when, of Canadian peacekeeping forces losing their shit.
Yeah.
That they're supposed to be doing peacekeeping somewhere.
The Blue Helmets, the UN Blue Helmet Brigade, right?
And I don't know if they were UN, but people were stealing, right? Like citizens of the place that they're trying to were they would steal food, they would steal whatever, right? And then they finally got authorization. Okay, you can shoot thieves. So they started setting traps of stuff to be stolen, and when people went to get it, they would just gun them down. And this is long after. I think this might have been like in the 90s.
Yeah, well, I know that Canadian peacekeepers were deployed to Bosnia Herzegovina, right? And that was a shit show.
Yeah,
like what was not what the Canadian peacekeepers were doing, but just what was going on there was a fucking terrible fucking situation. And I'm sure that the Canadian peacekeepers lost their shit at some of the stuff they saw.
I don't recall all the details, right? Because Canada doesn't like to talk about it, and the people who were there got in a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. Like Canadian soldiers were sent in, nobody knew what was happening, right? And they're finding out there isn't 2 factions fighting. There's like 4.
Mm-hmm.
And they're finding like what people are doing, who's doing this and that and the other, and it's like as they're trying to expose it. And from what I understand, though, the Canadian forces did behave admirably, right? Like there was none of the Canadian brutality you hear from other generations. These guys did good, but they were all punished severely. Yeah. So again, I don't know all the details, but yeah, they kind of got screwed. They got sent into a place, found out the information they were sent to find out, and then punished for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's brutal. Well, let's move on to the main topic of our night. We're going to talk about extremist clarity. So
you're going to have to clarify this extremism for me.
Sure. So if you saw the thumbnail, that's a picture of Montreal, Polytechnique Montreal, which is a polytechnical school that 35 years ago, it was primarily women who were there, right? I don't think it was a women's only school, but it was a women's only class, or a group of women who were targeted by an extremist who basically gunned down like 14 women, students, killed them.
Didn't beat Cho's high score.
What's that?
He didn't beat Cho's high score.
No. But he he killed these women, and because of this action was when basically the Canadians decided that it was time to start confiscating firearms from law-abiding Canadian citizens. Now, from what I understand, he acquired his guns legally at the time because at that time it was pretty loose getting guns in Canada. I don't believe the Firearms Act didn't require the strict licensing system that is required now. But that being said, they glommed onto this idea that firearms are the issue, not that a guy with regressive ideas about women, who was a Muslim, was the issue. And it made me think, okay, so we've got this guy. Now, I'm not trying to justify this extremist, but I'm just talking about the extremist clarity that comes out of this. When I heard it was like, oh man, it was a terrible attack against women, right? I'm like, yes, okay, terrible attack against women. But when I found out that it was a Muslim, I'm like, okay, well that fucking makes sense because Muslims don't like women. They view them as inferior. And it got me to thinking about people like, Anders Breivik and some other extremists out there who have done terrible things to subsets of the population that people just, oh, the horror, right? But then you look into what Anders Breivik, what his sort of his mindset was, and you're like, he wasn't wrong. I mean, he was wrong for what he did, but what he was screaming about, what he was angry about, was correct. That the country, the society that he grew up in, was being transformed by people from another culture who had no respect for the culture that they were living in. And then I started thinking about the different extremists throughout history, the latter half of the 20th century, and even the earlier parts of the 20th century. Guys like Enoch Powell, he was absolutely right about what was happening to England, and everybody called him, a bigot and a hateful person and a racist. Okay, maybe he was a racist, maybe he was a bigot, but there was reasons for his bigotry, and those reasons were not wrong. Ted Kaczynski, Ted Kaczynski's, his diatribe was Uncle Ted, the Unabomber. His diatribe was about, the destruction of life through modern convenience, right? And he was trying to prove a point that, because we've become so, what's the word? Insinuated this high-tech culture and high-tech society, it would be very easy to just randomly kill people just by using the system that has been created to make their lives convenient. And he was right. He was absolutely right. He talked about the poisoning of the food. He talked about the dumbing down of people through technology and through mass media. He talked about all of these things in his diatribe. And I'm like, the guy was right. He talked about the environmental degradation that was going on because of, modern industrialism and modern commercialism, and he was absolutely right. So I guess my point is, at what point do we start listening to the extremists before they go nuts and start, killing people? What point do we start going, yeah, you know what? Guys who are on the fringes of or at the casement of the Overton window, they're the ones we should be looking at, and they're the ones we should be listening to.
It's interesting that somehow we started talking about the Canadian forces through history, right up to Kosovo and the fall of Yugoslavia.
Right.
Because let's throw in, you remember Charlie Hebdo and the attack?
Yes, exactly.
There's the bombing at some, I can't remember, was it an Ariana Grande concert?
Yep.
The beheading of the teacher in the streets in England, somewhere in London.
Yeah, he was actually a military guy.
And multiple truck attacks, machete attacks, right?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? When Slobodan Milosevic was taken to the Hague and tried, he started showing photos and video at his trial of Muslims beheading people in the streets. And the judge said,
that Trump announced to rename Canada Gay North Dakota.
The judge dismissed that, saying that none of that matters. What you did is a war crime. And he basically said, well, maybe in 10 or 20 years, these things will be happening in your country, and then you'll see. And he was off by, less than a decade. But,
Well, he's not wrong. Like I said, he's not fucking. And you know what? I was kind of taken aback when I saw the other day Canada Man posted something, because normally he's very even keeled and he's straight edge and he's pretty
not extreme.
He's pretty milquetoast when you think about it, right? But he posted something a little while back. Let me just see here so I can find it. And I was like, whoa, it's kind of out of character for you, dude. Oh, where is it, man? Maybe he's in his replies.
Six says Canadians are like maple flavored Texans. Only
Yeah, I
some
saw
of
that.
us. Only
saw
some of us, and only out west. Like, yeah.
Sorry,
if it wasn't, no. If it wasn't for the brutal winters out there, like, that's where I'd be. But I don't need any more winters. I don't
like
need worse winters than I have.
of late. He's been saying things like Islam is satanic. I'm like, whoa, dude, because he's a Christian. I don't know if you know this or not. He's.
I was going to say, if he's a Christian, then that's true for a Christian for sure.
I'm not sure. I can't seem to find it, but there's something along the lines of people of the cross cannot peacefully coexist with people of the crescent or people of the chakra or the khanda. And then Pox Toxic replied, "Hey, you forgot people of the star." And he said, they have their own country. They can stay there. I'm like, fuck, man. Let me see if I can find his post. It's got to be here somewhere. It was a while back. Oh, well. Anyway, yeah, he's pretty extreme. But, here it is. Here it is.
So
yeah. Only people of the cross should reside in nations of the cross. I don't care about your intellect. I care about your values. Oh, wow. Because, yeah, somebody posted, should we have an IQ test for people who can come here to Canada? Yeah, it was the Pleb Reporter. I want the smart Indians to stay in Canada. Give all the Indians an IQ test when applying for full Canadian citizenship. Those 100 plus IQ score get to stay. The rest can get the fuck out. And Candyman responded with, only people of the cross should reside in nations of the cross. I don't care about your intellect. I care about your values. Good point.
I mean, somehow I'm reminded of that meme, John Hamm from Mad Men giving the pitch, and it says, citizenship test, but it's just eating a bacon cheeseburger.
True. Yeah, I don't know where this thing is, but basically, he basically went off about any people who aren't Christians shouldn't be coming to Canada.
If you want to have like ethnic or religious boundaries for your country, I mean, if it's good enough for Israel, it's good enough for me.
Here it is. Found it. Yeah, okay, so someone named Tony, I'm going to pull this up. So this guy named Tony said, anyone else notice that most immigrants, which is a new phrase, don't come from Christian nations? Sure, it's just a coincidence. To which Candyman posted, people of the cross cannot peacefully coexist with people of the crescent, nor can they peacefully coexist with people of the chakra or people of the khanda. These are the symbols of the different, religions. People with such disparate worldviews should stick to their own. Pox Toxics put, notice a lack of star people in your post there, Canada man. Canada, the people of the star have a homeland. Let them reside there. I don't know.
Hey, if it's good enough for Israel, it's good enough for me.
It's true, right? Israel doesn't allow people from all sorts of different backgrounds to come into their nation. They're all, this is a common refrain from Mark Dice. Jews are all for multiculturalism and mass migration to Christian nations.
And if they do let in a bunch of people of a different ethnicity into their country all at once, they mass sterilize them without telling them that's what they're doing.
How do they do that?
They say, oh, vaccines, here you go, free healthcare, and they sterilize them all. They did this to like 30,000+, I think, either Ethiopians or Somalis. Whichever one of those countries has Jews.
Yeah.
Because they're Ethiopian or Somalian, but Jewish. Right.
Oh, really?
And so they claimed asylum in Israel, and so being Jewish, they couldn't tell them no,
But they weren't ethnic Jews, so
so they sterilized all of them without their
interesting.
knowledge. Yeah,
Wow.
this is true. This isn't even like a hidden thing. It's not a
I wouldn't be
conspiracy theory.
surprised.
It's like
I
it's,
mean,
it's
like,
out
look,
there.
look, the Tuskegee experiments were a thing, so it would not surprise me at all that Jewish people, white people would look at brown people and say, "No, undesirables. We can't have them, proliferating." I mean, why do you think Margaret Sanger is on record for being an avowed racist? She talked about abortion as being a system by which you could keep the population of undesirables low.
Yeah.
So eat the bacon or get the fuck out, says Ben Felsen. Agreed. Yeah. Well, I remember there was a lot of controversy a few years back. We're probably talking about 8 or 9 years back, where a Canadian politician was talking about there should be a values test for immigrants coming into Canada. And people were up in arms saying she was a racist and a xenophobe. No, this is absolutely true. Like, why wouldn't you have a values test? Why wouldn't you have a test for people who wish to become citizens or even just permanent residents in this country? What do you believe? Do you believe that women, should have equal access in this country and be treated with equal merit and equal rights? Oh, you don't? You think women should be considered chattel slavery and have to be, covered up in a burqa or a niqab? Oh, sorry, you're not welcome here. What do you think about gays? Are you one of these tolerant people who says, you know what, live and let live? If you want to be gay, be gay. It's not my thing, but God will judge you in the end. But it's not my place to tell you can't have a lifestyle that doesn't appeal to me. What do you think of that? And if they said, oh no, I don't like the gays, they should, they're all sinners and they should all die. Well, maybe you don't belong here, because we're a pluralistic society where most people are like, you know what, gays are sinners, fine, but they're allowed to be sinners. It's not for me to judge, and they let gays be gays. I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, Jesus doesn't command us; he invites us.
Right.
If you don't do it of your own free will, you didn't do it.
Right.
Right. So,
it reminds me of Blair White posted something about a while back about how she's slowly going towards Christ, and Milo Yiannopoulos said, that means you're going to have to detransition.
I think Pac said the same thing.
Yeah. And I'm like, if you truly want to be accepted, I don't think God wants you to be trans. So,
yeah, man, this like, it's tricky, right? Like, I mean, it's very difficult. Someone knowingly, willingly asked for a procedure that is not reversible.
Right.
It's really hard, especially if it's a family member or something, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard now to tell them after the fact, well, you shouldn't have done that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's...
Well, right. But I would hope, my understanding is, in Blair White's case, she doesn't have a good relationship with her father. And a lot of the trauma that she suffered was because of her father. Her father didn't treat her well when she was a boy. And, abused him, I don't think sexually, but abused him physically and mentally, socially and psychologically. But this is the thing, right? Trauma can send you away from the truth. I like to harp on about the logos and the pseudos, right? And how we have a moral intuition, and why certain narratives resonate with us as being truer than true. It's because we have this moral intuition and we understand things that are true and are not true. We know when we're behaving badly. I know when I take a piece of junk food that I shouldn't be taking that piece of junk food, but I do, right? Because I'm flawed, and but when I do it, I have that sense of guilt. When I don't behave correctly, I have that sense of guilt. And that's the moral intuition, right? The moral intuition is the truth, is the logos. and the pseudos is the corruption of the truth. It's deception, even self-deception. It's the excuse for bad behavior that you come up with. So trauma is one of the greatest drivers of embracing the pseudos. And so when you think about what Blair White has done, it comes down to she was convinced that this was the way to go because of the trauma she suffered, because of the mental abuse she suffered. And it's unfortunate. So it's not entirely her fault, but ultimately it was her decision. Just like all sinners, they own their sin, but their humanity, their corruptibility is not their fault, right? It's a condition of being human. It's a condition of being mortal.
I don't want to harp on a specific individual or try to analyze from a distance, but in general, yeah, I imagine through trauma you'll build psychological or even spiritual walls, like in an attempt to protect yourself, but those walls eventually become a maze that can keep you from maybe reality eventually, right? And like that's
welcome, Six.
That's definitely a danger.
Six, I can't hear you, and we can't see your avatar. Are you there?
Did you put him in the show?
Yeah, hold on. It says 6 El Presidente Ma is in the stream
with audio only.
With audio only.
But stream with audio only.
Yeah, but we should see your avatar here. I don't know why we're not, but whatever. It's all good. See if I can add your avatar. No, I can't. We can hear you anyway. Welcome, Six. Can you hear us? I don't know if he can hear us. 6.
I hear something. It sounds like he's rubbing the microphone.
Yeah. Oh well.
Sorry, man. No, we're not getting proper audio out of you.
Yeah, all I'm getting is like a scratch that he left.
Because we heard him for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
We're gonna hop out and hop back in.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean,
yeah, you were saying sure. You don't want to harp on an individual,
but the idea of like through trauma, you build walls, and those walls become a maze, and the maze keeps you from the truth, from reality, from what's right or whatever. And I can see how that can happen. But man, like,
welcome, Six. Can you hear us?
Oh, check your hard wires, man.
Yeah, I don't know why we can't see his. Let me change my settings here. Guests. Weird. Yeah, Six. I can hear your audio, but I don't think you can hear us, and you should be here, but weird. Yeah, he keeps jumping out.
Like, somebody has, I don't know, say a surgical implant.
Right.
Like a woman gets breast implants.
Yeah.
And then, okay, maybe you find out, maybe you go hardcore towards Christianity and you realize that was something you shouldn't have done. Or you come to that conclusion. And to have them removed now is just another surgery.
Right.
It's like it's more physical trauma, and like it's very difficult to tell someone without being hurtful. Like there seems like there's no tactful way to go about this, right? Like,
well, it's
very unpleasant. It's just unpleasant all around.
Right. It's getting breast implants is like, it's a vanity thing. It's an ego thing.
Sure.
Is it a sin? I don't know. I guess vanity is a sin. So
The argument is the body's a temple. Life is, it's all
Right.
a gift from God. To go that way is, sort of not the optimal
That's
way.
part of the reason why I'm like, do I want to get a tattoo, or is it just stupid for me to get a tattoo? I kind of want to get a tattoo, but I'm like, but I'm right now, apart from my scars, my body is like unmarred. You know what I mean? I don't have any piercings. I don't have any tattoos.
Can you all hear me now?
We can.
Gotcha.
Can't
Okay.
can't see your avatar though, which is weird. Normally you'd be on the screen in a little box.
I am a little box. My fleece was white as snow.
How you doing, Mr. Six? Good to hear your voice.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Good. Welcome to the stream. We're just talking about sin.
Sin.
Yeah, which is it's not a foreign concept for me. I understand it in a literary sense, but in the real sense, insofar as God is concerned, it eludes me. I understand it in the philosophical sense. I don't think sin is. I don't think
understanding of it.
I don't think sin is specific to any scripture or doctrine. I think sin is. This is where I keep getting on with Twin about my concept of good and evil in the universe, and the forces of good and evil being the logos and the pseudos. And I think sin is a denial of the truth. Sin is a willful rejection of what you know is right and wrong. What you know is right, I should say, and the embracing through self-delusion of what is wrong or untruthful.
It's a very, very general way to put it. Insofar as how it's described, in, of course, in Western Christian doctrine, it's far more specific as to the very small facets that make up the ball of sin.
Like the actual actions and thoughts that comprise sin.
It gets really specific, but you have the general idea.
Well, that's the thing, and I think we benefit. Like I think Bronze Age people roaming the desert probably needed prescriptions for behaviors not to do, but I think we benefit from thousands of years of philosophy and literature and example through history to know what's right and what's wrong. And I say this all the time, we have a moral intuition, and we all have it. We just need to be able to exercise it. You know what I mean?
Some would call that the Holy Spirit. Now, you had said there's like the truth.
Yeah.
And, as a Christian person, the truth, the life, and the way is Jesus. And a general Christian way to describe sin, rather than a list of all these things that you don't do, right? The easiest way is, does this take you farther from God?
Right.
If it takes you farther from God, if it turns you away from God, that's sin. And you sort of can kind of know.
Right.
Right.
And without invoking God or scripture, if it takes you further away from the truth, then it is bad. It is of the pseudos, as they say, right? Sin is simple action and acts that are damaging to your soul and to your connection to God. And that's right. And that's what hell is, right? People consider hell the Faustian depiction of hell, where it's people being tormented in a lake of fire and that sort of stuff. But from what I understand from the ecclesiastics, they're basically, no, hell is separation from God.
Yeah.
So so hell could be hell on earth if you completely separate yourself from God.
Well, according to Dante, the deepest level of hell is actually incredibly cold and dark.
Right.
Because it is the place in existence furthest removed from the light and warmth of God's love.
Yes, I know God is the truth. Right. I understand. But the truth doesn't need God to be true.
No, you're wrong.
That's where I come up with the logos, right? The logos literally means the truth, right? The word,
the
truth.
word.
The word is the truth. Yes, exactly. No, I understand the doctrinal connection to my concept. I get it. I'm just not there where I'm willing to say
Sure. Okay.
there is an entity,
So,
and his name is God, and Jesus was his only begotten son, and he sent Jesus here to as forgiveness for our sins. I had another idea for Jesus, and Twin said this was blasphemy, and that I was basically I was testing God with this. Here was my idea. Okay, so
wait, was that me or was that Pox? I typically don't do that.
You're bitterly backsliding because you have a bias. Yeah, you're absolutely look, Pox. I'm still atheist. Yeah, but I'm an agnostic atheist, and I'm leaning towards belief. My idea was that so there's God, right? God has made these prescriptions for humanity on how to behave, and yet he gets disappointed time and time again, which is why we have the catastrophe of the flood, which is why he knocks down cities, which is why he turns people into pillars of salt, because people disappoint him, right? They continue to sin again and again, despite the fact that he's shown his wrath and he's told them what to do and what not to do. And he's spoken through prophets, he's spoken through his representatives on earth, and yet people still behave badly. And so what it comes down to is God can't understand this tendency for humans to sin, even though he created them. God is omnipotent and omniscient. Because he's omnipotent and omniscient, because he is all, the Alpha and the Omega, he can't conceptualize the idea of his finite creation behaving in a way counter to his will. So what does he do? He comes down to earth in the flesh to experience life as a mortal. So he understands the nature of sin. He understands how trauma and how mortality can drive people to behave badly. And in doing this, he comes to an understanding of sin, and he sacrifices himself so that all humanity can come to him, because look, I've lived it. I know what you go through. So here I am. I'm willing to give myself up, sacrifice myself, and all you have to do is believe in me, and you get to come back and be with me in the afterlife or in heaven or what have you.
If I may, and Six, when I'm finished here, you tell me whether or not I'm right or wrong about this. Okay, so this is not blasphemy per se, it's a misunderstanding.
Or it's an interpretation.
Sure,
So
and that interpretation
start searching for the truth in a legit way. So what's a legit way, though, Pox?
That interpretation is
speak
wrong.
to a priest. I don't know. Maybe read the Bible. Okay, maybe.
Okay, Irving, explain.
Your interpretation is wrong because of the misunderstanding.
Okay.
God didn't need to learn. We did, right? We were unable to redeem ourselves. So what God did was give us the proof we need. Now we can see it. Now we can have that story, right? The Word made flesh for us to see, right? That's why the death and resurrection is Easter is our high holiday, right? That throughout the Old Testament, a prophet comes and says, hey guys, you're doing it wrong. Come back to God. And what do? They murder that guy. And they do it over and over and over again, and they will not be redeemed. And so finally God says, fuck it, I'll do it myself. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. And then they kill that guy. And 3 days later, he rises again, right? For hundreds of witnesses. And those hundreds of witnesses spread that story to the point that now there's billions of us.
So God is the first extremist who had clarity. Jesus was the first clear extremist.
So in a way, it also negates us from making the excuse that God doesn't understand the physical pain that we go through and the terror and the torment that we go through in the way that we do, because he experienced that firsthand through the experiences of Jesus Christ on the cross and the experiences that he had before all of that. So, I was talking to Irving.
I'm sorry if I'm what do you call it? I'm offending your sensibilities with my heresy. It's not my intention. It's my intention.
I think Pox just wants to explain.
I get it. No, and I appreciate that. I sent him the link so he can jump in.
Okay.
Hey guys, what's going on in this chat?
I'll be right back.
Coyote. Here you. Oh.
So, I just wanted to say that Irv and I were talking about this the other day, and I don't often get into this subject, but I did that time, and the way I describe myself, the description is actually a good word to use. The way I describe myself is that I am an old world, New Testament Christian.
Okay.
And insofar as I don't really prescribe to the earth is 10,000 years old kind of business.
I don't think anybody really subscribes to that, but there might be some people out there. Hold on, let me find my Discord here.
And also I'm not one of these. I'm very much almost exclusively focused on the New Testament.
Okay.
And the journey of the Messiah. That's my main focus. I do look upon the Old Testament as like a historical reference, and certainly a good reference insofar as things like Proverbs. You read through the book of Proverbs, you get a lot of very helpful and profound advice for how to conduct yourself in your daily toils and whatnot. But I don't look at it apart from, say, like the Ten Commandments and things like that. I'm more of a New Testament centered Christian as opposed to
Have you read Jordan Peterson's new book, Those Who Wrestle with God, or We Who Wrestle with God? I bought it. I haven't read it yet, but it's kind of funny because I heard him talking about it on Fox, I think it was, and he was basically referencing it, and he mentioned because his whole thing is that he's been trying to basically bridge the gap between the empiricists and the people who follow metaphysics or believe in metaphysics, right? You are here, Mr. Pox Toxic, but you're audio only for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Because I don't have a camera.
Oh, well, there you go. So what Peterson was saying was basically that what we've come to understand now is that the universe is a narrative, and the reality is a narrative, and that we understand reality through a narrative, and that it can't break things down through an empirical way. That science and religion, or science and belief, are not non-overlapping magisteria. They're intertwined, and the insistence upon the materialists to say no, God is not real because it's not materia is the wrong way of looking at it. And that's why guys like Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins are just so wrong-headed in this. And this was the thing that I was really, I think this really sort of resonates with me insofar as Jordan Peterson goes, because I've been looking for that bridging of the gap between materialism, the science of evolution, science of astrophysics, and that sort of stuff, and the universe in a metaphysical sense. Does that make sense? That's why I guess it's because my roots as an atheist, and for the longest time a materialist, that have caused me to be resistant to accept a specific narrative with regards to the metaphysical nature of the universe. It's why I come up with this crazy idea of mine of the logos and the pseudos. It's just a shorthand for the same thing that you guys believe. It's just I haven't said it's definitely this narrative.
Brother, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but this is more long-winded than any explanation from any Bible passage I've ever heard. You could spend I like try to call it shorthand's a bit of a stretch. That's all I'm gonna say.
What's that?
That's trying to call it shorthand that's a bit of a stretch, brother.
Okay, so it's not shorthand.
Okay, so what was driving me nuts, right, was your idea about God not understanding the nature of sin as experienced through man. If you go back to Genesis, all right, and there's a bunch of different ways it's translated and shit, but essentially it's telling the story of when it's telling the story of Adam and the garden and all that. The garden is a place in the world separate from the world that he's got Adam and Eve in, right, with the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And the basic premise, just to kind of shorten it down for the sake of brevity, is essentially Adam is a young creation. So God is trying to nurture him. He's sending him out. He's going out and taming the land outside of the garden and everything and coming back. And he tells them, you'd have to look it up because I don't know the passage verbatim, but essentially he tells them, don't eat from this tree. And the reason is because they aren't ready for the knowledge of good and evil when they eat it. Right? When they eat from the tree. So it wasn't that God didn't understand. He knew right. What we were going to go through. He was trying to prepare us to be better suited for that.
I think
when the time came.
But
because he gave us free will, we were able to kind of deviate from that.
Do not eat the fruit from this tree, for you will surely die, is what he said. And I think what the
yes,
interpretation
the knowledge,
is, the knowledge will kill your innocence. The knowledge will kill the purity of who you are.
Yes, that's the reason for the fall, because Adam and Eve ate from the tree before they were ready.
Right.
We got we got the knowledge of good and evil. We understood shame. Death was brought into the world and all this shit. And we were in no way, shape, or form prepared for it as we were supposed to be. So
right.
That's why you have all this, that's why you have pretty much the entire story of the Bible leading up to Jesus and all that, is because, okay, well, they fucked that up. It probably wouldn't have took as long, but now I guess we got to do it the hard way.
I like Twin's flip on it, where he says it wasn't that he needed to learn, it's that we needed to learn that the way to God was not through amassing wealth and making sacrifices in his name and erecting idols to him or anything like that, or erecting giant temples to him. The way through God was through this. That makes a lot more sense. Absolutely.
There is some there's funny memes that come from the New Testament, right? Like Jesus in the garden, looking up, hands together. Are you there, God? It's me, you. Right? Or the one or the idea that on the cross, right? Father, why have you forsaken me?
Right.
It makes these if Jesus is God, why is he calling out to God? Why is he praying? Right? It's because people misunderstand this, and it was when I found this out, I can't remember exactly how, it made all the sense in the world. There is not one word that Jesus ever said that was for Jesus. Everything is for us. Mm-hmm. So that prayer in the garden is for someone to overhear so they can write it down so we can see it. Right? So on the cross, crying out is for us to see it. When you are at your lowest and you feel like you have been forsaken by God, you are not. Right? Like that's what stories are for.
But isn't that kind of counterintuitive? How would anybody interpret that if they see Jesus, this perfect human, on the cross, looking up to God, seeing him suffer in his mortal form, and saying to God, Father, why have you forsaken me? How is it for anybody to view that and interpret it as, oh, he's talking about us, not himself?
because that's completely contradictory to human nature. When you're suffering, your immediate response is to cry out for help for yourself, not for the people that are tormenting you. Right? That's one of the reasons that I think
But he doesn't say, why have you forsaken them?
that's one of the reasons that
Why
I
have you
think
forsaken
Christianity
me?
is like it's the truth, man. Like that's where I'm gonna throw my chips in, because it's everything about the teaching of Jesus goes against it's essentially trying to get you to go against your raw, basic animalistic nature, right? Be better, strive to be better. You understand that these things are bad, that they're going to harm you spiritually or physically or emotionally or mentally or whatever. So don't do them, right? Like
Yeah,
just try to be better.
To answer your question,
Hmm.
I did it.
What do you mean?
I interpreted that because,
How? Like, what I'm understanding is,
well,
where
here, let me tell you.
Okay, please do it.
3 days later, he rose again.
Yeah.
So at your lowest, feeling forsaken is not the end. 3 days later, right? If it's days, is it months, is it weeks, is it years? You can get through this,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, like it may feel like the absolute worst, lowest point. It may feels like the end. It doesn't have to be.
But is the passage, why hast thou forsaken me, oh, you have not? Or is it just, why hast thou forsaken me?
I think that's actually in the garden.
No, on the
But
cross.
again, it's the whole story, right? You can pull one line out of anything and try to interpret it however you want, but when you look at the entire story,
I'm just asking.
And
I'm
the
just
Bible
asking
gets
for why.
extremely complicated, because you literally have to start from the beginning to see the threads weaved through everything through the entire story. I mean,
No, I
the whole
understand
reason
that.
that they have the genealogies at the beginning is because every one of those bloodlines plays a major role in some story later on in the Bible. Like, it's kind of hard. You can't. That's why you can't cherry pick a verse or a verse or two and try
No,
to
this
use
is
them
the
to
thing.
make a point, because you could always go, okay, what's the verse after that? What's the verse directly before that? You
No,
know,
I'm not trying to make a point. I'm trying to understand, is what I'm saying. And I don't like, Twin says he's interpreted to mean when Jesus said it, he was speaking to the people. He was speaking to the people who were speaking to God on behalf of the people. And I'm saying from the scripture, I don't get that, because it doesn't sound like that's what he's asking.
well,
But
that's because that's because you're looking at just that passage and you're not looking at everything that led up to it. His entire life, everything he did and everything he said was for the benefit of the people around him and the people of the world. It wasn't anything he was doing for himself, right? It was
right,
all for our benefit from the very beginning. So
right.
what and
But
once
wouldn't it
once
have
you
been more appropriate to say something along the lines of, God, why have you forsaken them? Instead of why have you forsaken
because
me?
he hadn't forsaken us. And it was just I'm if I'm right, like if I'm thinking right, it was like that was supposed to be like the big moment of weakness, right? What was the response to that? Does anybody
I don't
remember?
know. I don't. That's the thing. I don't know.
It's
It
been
just, to me, it
so
seems
long
kind of
since
like
I've
a.
actually read it.
It seems like a contradiction, right? And this is something that atheists pull out all the time. It seems like I'm sure there's like, Twin says no. It should be interpreted as he was speaking for the benefit of the people, and it was proven that he wasn't forsaken because he rose 3 days later. Fine, but that presupposes that you believe the narrative in that weave, in that context. What I'm saying is, if that's the line from the scripture, would it not have been more correct for him to say, God, do not forsake them, or God, why have you forsaken them? Or, to me and to many atheists, it sounds as though Jesus is saying, please let me die, God.
Well, he had
Why won't
already
you
done
let
that,
me
right?
die? You know what I
He
mean?
had
Like,
already made that kind of declarative statement, right? Forgive
mhm.
them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Right.
Right. So wouldn't it be kind of redundant to have that line and then follow it up with a line, but why have you forsaken them?
Yeah, I don't know. Squeak Cody says Dawkins hates Jordan Peterson because Dawkins is full turbo. He is. Dawkins is blind. He's as they say, ideologically possessed. His ideology is materialism, and he lacks the ability to see metaphysics. All
He's
scientists
a
should be
stuffed
agnostic.
shirt, as
to
they
what they
always
do.
just say.
Didn't he
And-
make some concessions on some stuff a while back?
Well, he's talked about how he's found himself moved by what do you call it?
Christian music.
Christian music. I'm like, sure, because it's moving. And but I guess his thing is he thinks it's just it's a purely normal physical response to beauty. He says
Well,
he sees beauty in nature, and that can move him to tears or move him to a great emotional outburst. And
He
then the
is,
question is,
yeah.
why? Right?
That's
The question is,
so.
well, why?
Was he talking about like choirs and gospels and like Orthodox chanting, or was he talking about like modern contemporary Christian music? Because there's a big difference.
He's talking about like in
just in general.
He's talking about Creed. He's a big fan of
where
Creed.
there's a choir singing
Yeah,
choral. You know what I mean? Like
I doubt he was.
Maria, hearing Ave Maria sung by a tabernacle choir will move you to tears. It moves me to tears because it's a beautiful fucking song.
Every time I hear that song, "Oh Great Thou Art," is probably the one that always gets me.
God never forsake the faithful. Yeah, the faithless were never forsaken either. Yeah.
So the reason I asked about that is because there was this big scandal. It's still kind of going on too with these like contemporary Christian record labels where they were essentially they're front loading their music with melodies and notes and song structure that they know is going to evoke emotion.
Oh, really?
So it has less to do with the Holy Spirit and more to do with the physical reaction you were talking about.
Mhm.
And it shines through when you start looking at a lot of these acts and you find out that they support the LGBT movement and they do all this and that and shit that doesn't make the headlines, and they do all this stuff in their personal life that's kind of like, well, that's not exactly Christian, bro. What do you mean? Well, how are you a Christian artist and you're doing all this stuff that goes against your own dogma? That's doesn't work, right? So that's a big money game when it comes to, I think, like the more ancient, like the chanting and the more choirs and vocals and stuff like that. I think there's something a little different to that.
Yeah, but if they're pulling those vocal arrangements, or they're pulling those melodies or series of notes and basically sampling them into their music to invoke that response from their listeners, isn't that just kind of like, and you say these artists turn out to be sinners? Isn't that kind of like, they're ripping off?
It's not so much
evil intent. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not so much that they're sinners, because we're all sinners, right? Everybody's fucked up. We're all broken, but it's more so that they're hypocrites,
right?
And not to be trusted.
Music is music, says Squid Coyote. Well,
I
some music's better than others.
Yeah, I will say I don't care for contemporary Christian music. Like I said, the Christian music that stands out to me most, and I engage most with, is what you would typically find in your basic run of the mill garden variety church hymnal. That's the stuff that really. That's the stuff that I
get. And I guess what I'm saying is it's moving for a reason that other things aren't moving. But then I think about music that comes from different cultures. So, for instance, in India, they've got a very different musical style. Do people who listen to music in India, and I'm talking about traditional, music that is associated with their religion, associated with their faith, when they hear that music in a setting associated with their, what do they have, a temple? Is that what Hindus go to, a Hindu temple? Do they have a same sort of emotional response as, say, Christians do when they hear hymns?
Okay, we're going pretty far out in the weeds on this one, but I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 432 megahertz or the 432 hertz versus 440 hertz.
Yeah, a little bit. That all kind of like rattles around in my brain like a fucking marble when I try to actually get a grip on it.
Yeah, it's some out there kind of stuff.
Wasn't Dream Machine? They did some of their music at a different level of hertz that would give it give it a
So
unique
the
sound.
story goes, and it's a kind of a two-part story. Okay. Okay. So put your tinfoil hats on here, because there was some to do about church bells that had this frequency that resonated, and it's kind of the range of 432. It was, and this is just some crazy shit, but like some government organization had this idea, had this notion that whatever got into their head about this, I'm not exactly sure the science behind this, but 440 megahertz, for some reason, they believe, like a lot of different kind of stimuli, it made people more pliable. So, and I believe it was the 1950s, the standard from 432 megahertz in recorded music was then changed to 440. Roughly the same time that we adopted fluoride. Okay, so we're getting into, we're getting to some weeds there. So you have these two kind of things coinciding. Then we get into the whole thought control kind of thing. It's a question. It's a question of whether you believe that there is fire where there is this particular smoke, and there may be something to it.
Do we bring in Tesla here, 6?
We could bring in Tesla.
Just before we do, have you seen Eyes Wide Shut?
Yeah.
Okay, so when Tom Cruise goes to that fucking mansion, and the whole ritual thing is going on, and the music that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So what Kubrick did was he took the music, he took like chanting, like Gregorian chanting, and he ran it in reverse. And I'm sure you've heard Gregorian chanting. It's pretty moving type of music. In reverse, it causes like an opposite response. It's very, very disconcerting when you hear that music. Now, the whole movie is disconcerting. The whole subject matter is disconcerting. And the stuff that didn't make it into the film is the most disconcerting about it. But that music in particular, that reverse chanting, that backwards chanting, it does something, down in, the taint of your body, makes you feel kind of icky. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
for sure.
And that was certainly by design.
Oh yeah. So what about that?
Yeah, it's Tesla.
Yeah, Irving was going to say something about Tesla.
Well, yeah, before Tesla cashed in there, he he had started research into like vibrational energy and different things, and he had some weird number patterns and connections and all this, and one of the ideas about A432 versus A440 is that there is a vibrational energy to the universe. This is what Terrence Howard is not very well explaining when he's trying to explain his schizoism. Right? Like, in the Bible, God speaks creation into existence. But in the Silmarillion, Iluvatar, is that his name? Iluvatar sings creation into existence, right? It's a story, it's a song, all of it, and it does have a vibration. And 432 is like the what do you call that? The tuning fork for the universe. That's the vibration that everything actually, the wavelength at which things happen, and everything's based on that. So by perverting it up to 440, not enough for most people to actually be able to tell the difference by ear, but just enough to be off the correct vibration. Everything goes wrong.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I remember I took audio in college. I remember the teacher was talking about how, and I barely recall this because this was ancient history when I was in college, but the idea that music was very mathematical up until you reached the 7th harmonic, and then it didn't work anymore. It just didn't, like, the math didn't add up correctly. It followed a very distinct pattern, So the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth harmonics in a mathematical sort of scale. But then you hit the seventh harmonic and it all fucking broke apart. The math didn't fit anymore. And so, and like, that's where I'm thinking, well, maybe, yeah, maybe we fucked up somewhere in the seventh harmonic.
There's a rather intense rabbit hole if you look into the Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah.
And exactly how much it plays into so many things.
The golden ratio.
The golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, prime numbers. It's just and just how many scientific gobbledygook that ends in the word constants. How many of those are in place in the universe, and then trying to rationalize anything like any of these things, any one of these things occurring by accident, and then trying to
That's cool.
look at all the other ones and trying to reconcile those occurring by accident, that the universe is built on these fundamental rules, these immutable truths, that any one of these can arrive by accident, like a Plinko machine, the balls falling into place perfectly every time. You begin to understand that it is mathematically impossible for there not to be something like God.
Well, yeah,
what we understand as reality
there's
was
definitely
not
something
built.
more than the materialism. Absolutely, that's why I'm leaning towards this. This switch to a belief in a higher power. But my stumbling block is it a person, right? Is it a conscious entity, or is it something even greater? And
God is something we don't know.
Well, that's just it. And then wherein comes this very human interpretation that is scripture, that tells a story in a very human way. And that's where I draw the line, that's where I draw the connection to the idea of the logos being God, the being, and this is where, Twin says the logos means the word, right? Means the truth. And so when I think of God as an entity, I think it is as a fundamental force of the universe. And I think truth is the fundamental force that drives the narrative that comes out in Christianity, that comes out in the epics of Gilgamesh, that comes out in all of the archetypal stories that we understand as being truer than true, right? There's a reason that even fictional stories resonate with us in a certain way if they follow a certain archetype. And when they don't follow that archetype, they're disconcerting. They feel wrong, right? When they don't follow the monomyth arc, they feel contrived. They feel fake. But when they follow a certain archetypal structure, they feel true. So that's why I draw the line that, to me, the Jehovah, Yahweh, whatever you want to call him, could in fact be the logos itself, and the devil could in fact be the pseudos, right, which is the force of deception, and the force of untruth.
The way I look at it, if we're just to like boil it down to its just like fundamental essences, the way I look at it is that the truth, that you like to describe it as being the logos, the truth, it's either it's the fractal or it's not. And if it's not the fractal, it feels wrong.
What do you mean by the fractal? Meaning it's a pattern that repeats?
It's off. If it's off pattern, then we can feel it, and it feels wrong.
Okay, yeah, no, I get that. It's like a fly in the ointment. When there's a fly in the ointment, it's like it doesn't do the job.
I had a neat thought here, right? I think it's a neat thought anyway. You guys saying that God is unknowable, right? It's not really an oddity. I mean, is it a Christian oddity? God is unknowable. You guys have said this. It seems, yeah, that's not like a very human interpretation. And Jesus says repeatedly, no one comes to the Father but through me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't know God.
Right.
Because it's God. But Jesus is a man. You can know Jesus.
But what is Jesus? How do we know Jesus is a man? Because of a narrative, because of a story. It's told to us through Scripture by the Logos. The truth,
Sure.
the truth is expressed through the story of Christ as a narrative that we can interpret and we can consume and understand and digest, and by that come to the truth, the Logos, God.
Have y'all ever heard of something called the Metatron?
What's funny
sure.
to me is you keep calling it the Logos, and in Eastern Orthodoxy, Logos is used to basically it's the reason of God or the logic of God.
It's
when they dive into their theology.
It's the word spoken into reality, right? The truth spoken into reality. Yeah.
A couple of shows
hey,
ago.
That's what I want to call them. All right, let me call them Logos for fuck's sake.
Couple of shows ago, Craig is saying he had watched Dawkins and Peterson talking or whatever.
Yeah.
And that without skipping a beat, Peterson responded with, "And Jesus is the meta giant."
Yeah,
right?
it was him and Dillahunty, Matt Dillahunty.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
But I was laughing because it's like Jesus is the meta giant is the atheist way of saying Christ is king.
It's true. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But he was trying to, but that's the thing. He was trying to explain that to an atheist, right? And this is the thing. I know Pox has his thing with Peterson, but this is the thing I like about Peterson is that he's trying to bridge that gap between the materialist atheist and the believer and the person who accepts metaphysics. And
well, he's not going to be able to do that. He's not going to be able to do that being faithless. I'll tell you that right now. And I've heard,
but I get it. But this is what he's being faithless. I don't think he's faithless. I think
I've heard there. Okay, so if he's trying to explain, like a Christian, he's trying to take the spirituality and kind of like dumb it down of the Christian religion and turn it into philosophy, which is just fucking insane. Like there's a couple clips I've seen where he's made statements about well, it's basically, well, the Bible's not true, but it is this. It was something like that, and I'm just like, this motherfucker.
He said it. I think what he said was, it's truer than true. So even if Noah didn't construct a physical ark and put animals 2 by 2 on it and roam, a flooded planet for 40 days and 40 nights or whatever it was, it's truer than true, and that's what he's trying to draw, right? That these stories, these narratives, hold more truth in them than the physical, material truth that we understand how the universe works. That our physical understanding and our scientific understanding of the universe doesn't hold up in speaking about things in a narrative sense. It's truer than true, right? To say that the story of the flood and the story of the redemption, the story of the cleansing of the earth is truer than the actual, detail of the story.
So he's starting from the point of atheism and trying to make a new Protestantism that's even more godless.
I don't know that that's necessarily.
That's literally that's what I'm getting.
You'd have to talk to him, but from an atheist point of view, coming from my point of view, good, because it gives me a kind of a what do you call it? A layperson's understanding of this faith. Somebody who doesn't, necessarily espouse a faith, I understand it a little better. So when he was talking to Dillahunty about that, Dillahunty was making the point that, it's primitive to think this way. We here in the 21st century stand on the shoulder of giants, and that's how we have this greater understanding of what the universe is. And then Peterson said, yes, and Christ is the meta giant upon which, those people we stand on their shoulders. Christ is the meta giant upon which they stand, meaning that Christ is the underlying narrative that undergirds all of Western civilization, and undergirds everything that we have accomplished. That was the point he was making. that it's more important than the material scientific discoveries we've made, because those scientific discoveries we've made that have made our lives so much better could not have come about except for the Christ tale, except for the narrative of the Christ.
Yeah, also don't mention that most of those scientists from way back in the day were like really devout Catholics, most of them. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Craig,
fucking
I'm
dying.
going to drag you to where I am. Where you go from there is up to you. I don't know what you're talking about. Joking, of course.
I think Pox might agree. The generous way to describe what Jordan Peterson is doing with his analyses of the Bible, of Scripture, Gospels, is making it palatable for atheists.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that
He's
such a
trying
bad
to come
thing,
at
though?
it from a.
Okay.
It seems like he's trying to come at it from a purely intellectual standpoint, which is commendable, but that just defeats the purpose, man.
The
Like,
less,
I think he's a
generous
I think he's a person of faith, and I purchased the book
Mm.
We Who Wrestle with God, but I haven't read it yet. I think he's a person of faith. I think he's also a person of philosophy and psychology, and I think he comes to it from a psychological and sociological point of view. I think he's a big fan of Joseph Campbell, and I think Joseph Campbell has a lot to say about it. So I think it's worthwhile, sort of
I don't know
entertaining
who
that.
I don't know who Joseph Campbell is.
He's the guy who basically wrote a comprehensive analysis of mythology, and it was under his sort of writings that George Lucas wrote the original Star Wars trilogy. So
Okay, I might have read that. Was he,
Star Wars sort of resonate with us because they follow this monomyth archetype.
was he one of the ones that wrote out essentially a breakdown of what the hero's journey archetype is? And it's
he's kind of the guy who wrote that treatise, so to speak.
Okay, I think I've read some of his work. I just didn't know his name.
Yeah.
Okay,
and I think I think Peterson likes him, and I think Peterson probably looks at things, from a sociological, psychological point of view when it comes to Scripture. So, but I also think that I think Peterson also has a deep understanding of Scripture from a psychology point of view, because he's done an entire Bible lecture series and he's going through it again. And
I think he's only got the understanding of it through a psychological lens. I don't personally don't get the vibe that he's got a very a strong faith or belief system based in any kind of Christianity.
Well,
a few reasons for that.
That's not for you to judge, though, right? That's
right. Like that's what I'm saying. It's just if somebody's going to be trying to talk about a religion or a theology, it's you gotta use discernment. Like, I'm not gonna follow somebody who I feel like is a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Like, that's just not
the
gonna
thing
happen.
is you're the choir. You're the one that you're already there.
Yeah.
Right.
It's all about footsteps. And one of the things about my journey was that I didn't start off there. There was a number of different steps that took me from me just being the bitter, self-obsessed young man to somebody that had a very much greater understanding of everything. And it took different mechanisms to get me there. And sometimes it does take somebody that takes a position like Jordan Peterson to reach people that are so far out that they need. It's like I brought up the Metatron, is that Metatron is this intermediary, this go-between between man and the Lord.
He was an angel who was the scribe of God, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's the one that's heard God's voice directly, because he's the one that could handle it. So he was the one. God spoke to him. He spoke to man. That's kind of how it works. Because if we were to listen to God, like, directly, we would be destroyed.
Your chest would cave in and your head would explode. They went through 3 atoms before they figured that one out.
He's like Black Bolt.
Exactly. So,
you ever seen Akira?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what would happen to you.
Yeah.
Here's
He's
the
Black
approach.
Bolt. He just whispers at you and you explode.
Here's the approach that I see so many Christians take, and one of the reasons why it is so unsuccessful is that they start from the position D and trying to relate to position A without B and C. And what they have to say just falls on so many deaf ears because people in A who hadn't gone through B or C. It's like two people speaking two very different languages from two very, very different cultures trying to relate to each other and it not working out very good at all.
So go ahead. My bad. I'll wait. I didn't mean to interrupt. Six. My bad.
So you have these various steps. You have people like a Kirk Cameron who will, at the drop of a hat, will go into a devotional right there, just fucking right there, hardcore, super devotional there.
Yeah,
he's gonna have a hell of a hard time reaching person on point A because he's already at point D.
Right. And
so there are other steps between point A and point D, the B's and the C's. The B's and the C's are important because you have somebody like Jordan Peterson who's probably like a B.
Right.
And
I like
B,
it. Yeah. I think of it this way. You look at the world we're in now, right? Like, so 100 years ago, everybody was a Christian. Everybody went to church on Sunday and everybody believed in the scripture and they listened to the priest and the priest would tell them what was right, what the scripture meant and why it was important. And people were like, yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. Now, fast forward 100 years later, we live in a largely secular humanist society and people listen to people talk about religion and they think it's hokey and they think, why the fuck should I believe that? Well, here you got a guy who's getting young people to take responsibility for themselves. And now he can say, and here's why that's important. And the scripture tells you why it's important. And here's why the scripture is important to understand. And here's why the scripture makes sense. So in that sense, I think Peterson does an important thing.
Okay, so here's my issue with people like Peterson, right? Like I said before, I feel like he's coming at it from mostly like a purely intellectual standpoint. Like that's the lens he's trying to focus all this through. And the issue with that is he's a cult of personality. He's going to draw in all these people and he's going to be explaining all this stuff to them, his interpretations of scripture. He has no authority in any kind of divine hierarchy to be giving his interpretations to people. So he's essentially leading them further away from the cross as opposed to bringing them to it, because a lot of these guys that are going to follow this guy are lemmings. I hate to say it like that, but that's what happens with the influencer cult of personality types, is they're not going to go out and seek, church fathers or priests or even pastors or anybody that's going to give them either, yeah, that sounds right, or no, this was totally misinterpreted, or you have to relate this to that. They're not going to get the deeper understanding. They're just going to take what he says as, oh yeah, that makes sense, and now that's what they're going to follow. So and it could be leading people down like not necessarily a ruinous path, but a path that is going to make it harder for them and on a spiritual level down the line. There's always that risk involved with people like that.
Twin, go.
Here's the way I like to look at it.
Okay, so Six, you go and then Twin.
Okay, so it's to understand that Jordan Peterson, he's a B. Now, it is our responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility to understand that B is not the final step to take. You still have to get to C in order to get to D. So, in essence, a door can be opened for you, but it is your responsibility to walk through it.
I get that. Twin, you wanted to say something? Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
Yeah, so...
But how many of these boys are going to know that there's a door open for him if he's not saying, go out and seek knowledge here. Go look here for more, because I can't get you. I can't get you all the way to. I can't get you
to read the Bible. Isn't that good enough to get them to read the Bible?
So
Well,
then
no,
it becomes
because
a
then you run into the
responsibility.
problem that the Protestant church
Yeah.
has, which is individual interpretation, and that leads to a whole mess of heresies and all kinds of fucky behavior that is not in line
But
with
if somebody,
scripture.
but if
Like,
somebody's not even remotely inclined to read the Bible, and then they get, and then they they find some person who they resonate with, and that person who gives them a lot of solid advice and makes them become a better young man, is then tells them, you know what, wouldn't hurt you to read the Bible, and then he starts reading. That's getting them closer to that door.
Then we arrive at the C's.
right,
Now,
but when what I'm
C's are the
saying is,
people. Yeah.
what I'm saying is, when it comes to Christianity, there is a hierarchy to orthodoxy and Catholicism, right? Like I'm to the point, and I don't get, y'all can get offended or pissed off, anybody that's listening, I don't give a fuck. Protestantism is dead to me, dude. It's just a bunch of fucking reformed whores selling Jesus t-shirts at this point. I can't take that shit no more. I've had my own bad experiences. It seems like every Protestant church I've ever been to has just been fucking.
Tell us how you feel about beaners.
Beaners? I mean, they're all right as long as they ain't, trying to steal my power tools and shit. Cool.
I got my own power tools box. Don't worry.
I got like 10 of them that live in a house across the street. They're some of the best neighbors I've ever had. They're quiet, keep to themselves.
That was rhetorical. Cool. I didn't actually get you mean for you to go on.
I mean, damn, you got you got me all derailed. I forgot where I was going. Oh yeah, church hierarchy. So in script, I mean, so Christianity is from what I'm starting to come to understand, is a kind of a patriarchal hierarchy. That's why you have the bishop and the fathers and the priests and all that stuff, and they all follow their own little ladder of command, I guess is the best. That's not the best way to put it, but you know what I'm trying to say, right?
I know what you're saying.
And if you're coming at it from the position that he's at, and yes, it is a good thing that he's getting people to read the Bible, I'll give him that. But if he's not giving them any further direction, like saying, hey, if you really want to explore your faith, this is probably the best path to go down. Find a church, find a priest, find somebody, some kind of spiritual mentor that knows more about that side of it than I do. And I don't see him doing that. All I've ever seen out of
the thing is, he may not be doing that, but it needs to be the C's that do. See, he's still at B, but there are other steps. The C's need to be the ones that do that. The C's need to be the ones to be looking at the people that the B's are talking to, and then go to them and say, hey, I see that you've had this conversation with this B. There's a bit more to it. Would you like to hear more?
Yeah.
Would you like to explore? Would you like to know more? Would you like?
Click here if you'd like to know more. Twin, you've been holding up for a while. What did you want to share?
Okay, the generous interpretation is that Peterson's making scripture palatable for atheists. The less generous interpretation is that Peterson is pulling the divinity out of scripture to make a bunch of godless heathens, right? I think
yes, that's
the danger that you foresee, Pox. But also, I am a person that staunchly avoids the institutions and the so-called spiritual leaders. Like, if you have to put on your magic robes to cast the spell so that God knows that I'm asking questions, I have nothing to do with you.
Well, no, that's not quite what that is. That's depending on the church.
No, I don't.
Come on, man.
I don't mind having these conversations, and I understand the idea that people could interpret things incorrectly, and that whole thing about in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Therefore, I can sell Jesus t-shirts. No, you can't interpret that's not a logical interpretation of this, right?
Well, I'm gonna.
Hold on.
Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Just one more thing. Right? I think I accidentally became again, the generous way would be to call me a Johannite.
A what?
A Johannite Christian.
Okay.
He's a filthy Gnostic.
No, it's not Gnosticism. It's, imagine you were the last person on earth. You'd never heard anything about any religions ever, and all you found was the Gospel of John, the one that's in the Bible, King James version.
Oh, okay, yeah, we've talked about that.
I think through that you could come to know Jesus. That's really the text you need.
Fair enough.
And alone, with no spiritual leader, with no like that book is the one. If you could only pick one, I think that's so. I mean, it is a good idea to have these conversations like we're having, but is which one of you two guys is the spiritual leader? Because it's not me.
I'm going to play devil's advocate with what you said about the.
That's why I keep saying find a priest to talk to.
Okay,
Craig, find a priest.
I understand what you're saying. Now, let me ask you this though, and I know you probably I can probably predict your answers. I'm asking Twin this. You said something about selling T-shirts. So the Protestant, let's say, the evangelical, let's say, they come to Jesus and they come to know Jesus and they're saved, and then they realize that they want to spread the word, and so they set up a booth at a bunch of religious events, selling T-shirts with scriptures, with lines from the scripture on it, and they sell it to people who are on their journey towards Christ. And the people who wear those shirts, they read them when they put them on, and it reminds them of their journey towards Christ. And ultimately, they behave as better people because they feel as though this is an expression of their faith, of their burgeoning faith. What is wrong with the Protestants selling T-shirts? And what is wrong with a person wearing T-shirts if it's getting them closer to God? And even if it doesn't get them closer to God through an orthodox sense, it gets them closer to God in a behavioral sense, in that they become more generous people, they become more thoughtful people, and they become better people to the community.
Because they are, okay, so the issue for the person buying the shirt is that it's an issue of vainglory. You're not supposed to virtue signal. You're not supposed to put on any kind of outward air that says I'm better than you, because I'm a Christian, or anything that kind of like, I don't know exactly how to word it. Essentially, you're not supposed, it's putting the attention of the world above the attention of God, is the way that it was explained to me.
But if they view it as wearing it is, gets them closer to God, then maybe if they don't view it as a vain thing, as a look, I need to show everybody that I'm faithful.
Well, they wouldn't know that that's
way. They're putting it on. And
that's the problem. They wouldn't know that it was a vain thing because they're filthy fucking Protestants. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
So there is a passage there where we're told, look, don't do your praying where people can see.
Right.
That's Mark chapter 6.
When you pray, it's supposed to be a conversation with God. It's not supposed to be a conversation with the congregation. Right? It's meant to be a conversation with God. So it should be done in private. But again,
the passage goes, worship not in the public, in the view of in the corners of something. I can't remember. It's been years since let me get the exact one.
That's why he was so up in arms about the temple, right? And about the the clergy. When it wasn't that there were money changers in the temple. It was that the temple didn't disregarded God and was concerned only with the earthly. So,
which may well be the interpretation of the Protestant setting up his booth and selling T-shirts with scripture on them, that Jesus would flip that table and chase them with a whip.
Right. Well, I would say if he did that in the church, that probably would be a bad thing. But I'm talking like,
that's
it's
the
some
thing.
sort of jamboree held at the county fairground.
If you're out in the world representing the church, you're still doing it in the church, just not on the church property.
Sure.
Right? Like you're still a representative of your faith, especially if you're out trying to hawk merchandise.
Yeah,
right?
I guess that's where the heathen in me comes. I'm like, you know what? If you're spreading goodness and you're spreading the faith and you're bringing people closer to God, I don't care how you do it.
The temple of the temple of God isn't in buildings of brick and stone. It's in the hearts of men and women all over the world. So you carry the church with you. Like when you become part of the body of Christ, something like that. Yeah, when you become a part of the church, you're a representative of that church.
So what's
everywhere you go.
What's the difference between hawking a T-shirt and handing out tracts or Watchtower?
Giving freely. I would say
So-
just off the top of my head, snap answer: giving freely. If you're just handing out shit for free, giving out Bibles, giving out whatever, just talking to people, giving your time, you're not making a profit off of it, so you're not profaning it. You're legitimately trying to help people at that point.
So
without,
yeah, but when the
without
Jones
money
come to your door
mucking
with
it up.
with a copy of the Watchtower and they say we don't want anything, but what they do want is actually a donation.
Yeah. So I
They don't demand it. They don't say give them. It costs $2 for a copy of the Watchtower, but they are implying they would love a donation.
So I said it was Mark 6. It's actually Matthew 6. Sorry.
Matthew 6.
And it goes like this. When you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by men. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen.
So, you notice he mentioned synagogues. Goddamn Jews.
So Ajax, help us out here. The word that translates from Greek to synagogue means gathering place.
No, okay.
So they're Roman Catholic. Ajax. That's
Anyway,
funny.
This has been a very fruitful conversation. I appreciate you guys all rendering your opinions, and
no problem, man.
And quashing my burgeoning faith.
I'm just doing my job as that C guy. You know what I'm saying?
It's all good, man. I want to get on to true news real quick.
Oh no!
Oh no!
1 sec. I forgot to do the thing. 1 sec. 1 sec.
You say you feel trapped in a man's body.
Well, sometimes I get the menstrual cramps real hard.
All right.
Okay.
There's that before.
Yeah, take it away, Craig.
All right. This is just something I bookmarked that I thought was fucking funny. Hold on a sec.
So, Kiwi True News, Brianna Wu has achieved her lifelong goal of becoming the most blocked person on X and Blue Sky, apparently.
Oh, no shit, eh?
Yeah, that was just one of the headlines. I haven't jumped into the thread, though.
Yeah, Brianna Wu, if you're not familiar, is a member of the Flint family of, Larry Flint, founder of Hustler. His actual name is John Walker Flint, and he's a trans.
Wait, no way, really?
I just thought she was mad ugly.
Yeah.
No.
Not a looker.
No, I didn't know he was. I didn't know he was related to the Flint family. That's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Boom. And all the other women just start popping their own balloons in solidarity with the man.
I saw that earlier. Give that man his crown.
I know, right? It's funny. This was in. Hold on. This was. Where did I see this? I meme, therefore I am. It was. What's her name? Sydney Watson was posting. It was like, isn't it funny how they all pop their balloons in solidarity with the man who's pretending to be a woman.
What was the balloon pop? I don't understand the reference.
And the idea is the guy walks in and he pops the balloons of any woman that he's just outrightly refused to even want to try and talk to. He's not. These are all women who are prospective dates of his.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk to this one. I'm not going to. So he sees.
Is that what it was? I thought they were supposed to pop their own balloons after they talk to the
They pop their balloons after he says something that they don't like. Yeah, they can pop their own balloons, but he can pop theirs just to get them out from the beginning, right?
Yeah, okay.
Sort of streamline the whole event.
So those two with balloons in their hands are keepers.
She's like, yeah, fuck, and
That's where you concentrate your energy.
synagogue. Okay. Fun fact: Reddit, Twitter, Wikipedia, and Tumblr aren't real people. No, they're not. Neither is Kiwi Farms.
We'll get
Blue
that
check.
fedora off of you eventually, Craig.
What's that?
I said we'll get that fedora off of you eventually, Craig.
Fedora. Oh yeah, I know, right? Let me see. I've been putting some Grok stuff up of late. Grok's been pretty cool. It's been putting some good shit together. Well, here's another one.
And you guys like all the stuff I've been putting up?
Oh fuck yeah!
Yeah, it's been really good. I love
Yeah,
it.
some of it's been pretty good. Is that all from Grok 2.6?
Yeah.
So okay, I asked Craig the other day on Twitter, is it worth the what is it, $8 for access?
I went premium for my channel or my Twitter because I told you I'm kind of an Elon Musk fanboy, but also I was thinking if I start pushing my channel more through X and I'm doing it on a premium account, then maybe I'll get more traffic. It really hasn't happened. But
I like being able
It's
to.
only been a
spread
couple
my
months.
spelling.
How we need to have like a powwow about shilling because I was good at it back when we were all trying to actually
yeah,
like.
you've been
hardcore
really good
stream.
with your YouTube channel. Your YouTube channel is getting a lot of views, eh?
I mean, I guess I broke 12,000 channel views earlier today. Is that good? I don't. It's only been since like September, and it's mostly been the Kino Casino shit that everybody likes.
Yeah. James Woods posted this on X. This is going to be fun. Name the worst category of drivers. It can be anything from a state, electric, or gas, ethnicity. Be politically incorrect if you wish. Just any category of bad drivers you dread when you're behind an idiot and you say you're to your mate, those damn blanks. And so I responded with brown people in Brampton.
Oh, I was going to be more general and agree with Costin. Fucking Torontonians.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
It's just not a page full of Asian.
You know what? I didn't see the comments. I just posted brown people in.
Well, yeah. You showed us the collection there of.
Oh my god,
Brampton
of the
incidents.
terrible people. Yeah. Let's see what the answers are from James Woods. The ones toking up while I'm driving behind them, or maybe we've just got all kinds of skunks in the city. Women, those mass holes. I don't know. With all those factors taken into account, California ended at number 3 on the nation's worst drivers list, trailing Rhode Island at number 2 and Massachusetts, which garnered the unenviable top spot. I didn't think Massachusetts. Well, Boston, yeah, I can see that.
Do you really believe that Bruins fans can drive?
Yeah, there you go. Right. Drivers from Florida are apparently the worst.
I can see that. That's a lot of methed out people on the road.
Snowbirds from Arizona, so people who come from the north. You think they'd be fine. Prius drivers, always going 10 under the speed limit.
That's as fast as it goes.
Yeah, Prius is pretty fucking awful, eh?
This is half the fuel system is wishful thinking.
What else we got?
Ajax knows. Holy shit.
Ajax knows? Whenever I see an Ontario plate, I know I'm about to be cut off. Is it illegal to use mirrors up there? I use my driver's mirror, and I use my rear view mirror. I almost never use my passenger side mirror.
That is so fucking backwards, bro.
It's
wow.
I use my passenger mirror more than anything else because the last
Yeah,
thing I want to do is sideswipe a motherfucker getting over.
I can see the left lane up to my blind spot. I'll check my blind spot, but I never even look at my passenger mirror. But I can see the left lane perfectly with my rear view mirror, so I hardly ever use my left side.
in Toronto, the way most drivers signal that they want to change lanes is they put their wheels on the lane dividing line and they
You
wait for
motherfuckers
someone.
not have turn signals?
They wait for someone to honk, and if no one honks, they just keep going. Yeah,
What?
That's brutal. Yeah, no, I am religious about checking my blind spot, and I use my my driver's mirror. My passenger mirror, if I look at it, it's a glance as I'm checking my blind spot. But most times I'm just checking my blind spot and my rear view.
Now, are these natural Canadians or the neo Canadians that are
So Brampton
taking
is the
over?
neo Canadians. Into Brampton is the neo Canadians.
and it like I said, it's been getting worse for a long time. It was never good. But yeah, like born and raised Canadians are picking up the bad habits because if they don't, they won't get anywhere.
Right.
Oh God, that sounds awful.
Like, okay,
Down here we've got Somalis. You see a fucking brown woman with a hijab on, dude, you just stay like 4 car lengths back because it's probably going to end all bad. Worse if you see one of the dudes wearing one of the dashikis, man.
They're just lazy retard spots. I think what he means by that is people who are too lazy to get out of your blind spot. Is that what you're talking about?
No. Like, it's not a blind spot because you can check it. Like, you just look there. So it's only blind if you don't look.
No, I get it. But the blind spot is that your mirror doesn't catch it. It's a spot that your mirror can't catch.
Yeah, it's just.
Right?
So you guys, I don't know if you're familiar with this channel. It's called like China Fact Checkers. It's these two guys, Lil Y86 and Serpent ZA. They were teachers in China. So they lived in China for about like 14, 15 years, each of them. And they were there long enough to get a really good grasp on the Chinese and their habits. And they often have on their channel the Chinese driving badly. And my God, the Bramptons are they're the rookie squad.
Yeah, like China is fucked up, man.
Yeah, you know what? Somebody posted a question about China not too long ago, and I answered it. What did they say again? Hold on a sec.
Yeah, while you look for it, let me explain to you what I mean about the bad habits and the picking up the bad habits. So, you all know not to block the box, right?
Block a box?
Yeah, so you're coming to the intersection, but on the other side of the intersection, traffic is stopped and you can't clear the intersection. So you stop as if it were a red light, right? So you don't get trapped in the intersection if the light changes. There is an intersection that I have to go through every day, and every day it's blocked, and I stop behind the line, and some asshole pulls up in front of me, changes lanes in the intersection, and sits in the middle of the box in what should be my spot. And then another one. And then another one. And now it's 3 cars deep in the intersection with the guy not fitting completely into the lane. So he's on an angle in front of me. Basically, I'm pointed as his passenger door. And it's like, do you think I'm doing this for my fucking health? And if you don't go block the box, the light will change. They'll eventually clear the intersection. And then it'll be full up again. So when the light turns green, you still can't go forward. So if you don't go in and block the box, you stay there forever. You just starve to death in that spot.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
To avoid doing that, I literally changed my route and I take the long way to work now.
I don't blame you. That sounds annoying as piss.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking about Chinese.
But this is why I came up with my road shark idea. Okay.
So, Dr. Sydney Watson, she's not really a doctor.
Oh, what the fuck? Can you pause that or something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's brutal. I'm sorry. I don't want to.
Sorry. Yes.
It's brutal. there's so this.
Oh
this
yeah, this dude smacking the whale shark with a hammer.
yeah,
I saw
guy
this
smacking a
earlier.
whale shark with it. Like, why? Okay, so they caught him, but rather than just fucking kill him, you're gonna torture the poor fucking thing. Anyway, on a serious note, why is animal abuse seemingly normalized for Chinese people? I know that the population is huge, and maybe it isn't fair to generalize, but animal torture seems kind of baked into the culture. Why? Why is this?
So
Because they're bugs.
Because what? Sorry,
Because they're bugs.
because they're bugs.
They're bugs. They are insect people, bro. Everything and anything is a fucking source of nutrition, so they don't give a fuck.
Well, I posted their culture is historically cruel. It's just a generally cruel culture. Empathy has been excised from the population through centuries of oppression, mass murder, and conflict. They've had a caste system since the beginning. People have been just disposable, so nobody has any empathy for anything else. So that's my opinion. The reason that Chinese people have no problem with animal torture or torture of any type is because they just lack empathy, and it's because their society, their culture, has completely destroyed any sense of empathy whatsoever.
So
Anybody feels is for people in their immediate family, and even they don't have that much empathy for them.
Here's the thing. That's largely true. Unless you go out into like the country. Country folk are a lot different than the city folk. But the problem is that there's more of the city folk because there's more of them, because most of their population is concentrated within these urban areas. And I saw this one clip where this lady partially falls into this hole, and this dude just walks right by her.
Yeah.
Just walks right by her.
Doesn't
even bother to help her.
I saw a video where a truck, like a delivery truck or whatever. First, I don't know how this kid wound up being in the middle of this alley, but this delivery truck just drove over this kid. And people walked by and saw this kid in the alley that had just been run over by this truck. And when I say kid, I mean like a toddler-sized kid. And nobody fucking cared. People just walked on by. I'm like, how do you have so little empathy?
A dozen
I
people
think it
walked
has.
by
I
her
think part of
before,
that
yeah.
is due to the CCP as well, because I'm pretty sure they have some kind of fucked up law over there where if like something happens to somebody and you try to help them and they end up dying anyway, you are now responsible for their death.
Maybe.
Yeah, there's some weird shit, and that's not even like the worst video that I've seen. Like where the truck plows through a crowd of people where it's like a dozen or more people and bodies flying, there's parts and blood.
So
doesn't slow down, doesn't stop. Now here's the best part. Multiple cars drive through the debris and just keep going. They don't stop. They don't try to go around. They just drive through what's left.
Well, it's China where you have all these fucking buildings collapsing because the people who designed them and built them.
Tofu dregs, yeah.
Yeah. They built them basically out of fucking styrofoam covered with
paper mache.
They're basically paper mache houses. And and they have pillars like and people have been put to death. Like designers and architects have been put to death by the state when these things happen and cause massive death. But it takes that for something to happen. But otherwise, the buildings get built where the pillars are like, they're 20 centimeters or 20 inches fucking too narrow to support the structure. And these things fucking collapse and pancake when they're full of people. Like it's
the way the China fact checkers put it is that China is a land of facades and shortcuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this corruption is it's across the board from down to front. There are entire cities of these skyscrapers that are completely empty. Nobody lives there. And these construction companies, they build these things because they get these contracts and they have to build something. There is something that is part of the contract. They have to build something. So they just build the damn things.
Yeah. They have to justify why they got that money from and it's typically from the government, because the government's like, we need to show that we're a modern industrialized country.
and the infrastructure of that place is so fucked up that the drainage, in China, it rains a fuck ton. It's just one of those parts of the world where it rains a whole hell of a lot.
Mhm.
Problem is that the drainage systems in these cities is so stupid that it kills so many people. There was a brand new subway, subway.
Oh, okay.
A brand new subway that was just installed. Big ass rain floods the entire thing, kills hundreds of people, almost hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. It doesn't make the nightly news, of course, because that they lose face if that is something that is discussed. The censorship is on a whole other level. It is insane what you don't hear. And before I started watching this channel, I didn't know half. I knew that China was fucked up. I didn't know it was that fucked up.
I think I've seen this guy's shorts where he basically he picks apart shit in China.
Yeah. Oh, did you guys want to hear about gutter oil?
Gutter oil?
I know about gutter oil.
Oh,
yeah.
Oil.
Damn.
Oh, is it like they package it as food oil, but it's actually stuff that's like leaking into the gutter?
It pretty much in trash cans, in flowing down like in the gutter in the streets, in the side of the road, taking up manholes and siphoning up the oil that's floating on top. Yes.
And then they put it in bottles and ship it over to the United States.
No, they just put it on the pan and street meat it.
Oh,
you're lucky if they filter it. Sometimes they actually bother to filter it, but even so.
I remember there's a big controversy over them they're making powdered baby formula, and it contains melamine in it.
Yeah,
it was being shipped to the United States.
Yeah, and it's just understand how much the stuff that they do to other countries.
Oh, I know. Like the chicken.
Consider the
level. You buy those Jane's fucking chicken fingers that are pre-bred and stuff. The chicken is like, it's like dead chickens lying in the streets for days before they fucking process it.
Have you heard about the fake eggs?
No.
Oh, okay. So they're say what you will about the Chinese. They're very creative. So whenever you go to the Chinese market, you are essentially playing Russian roulette insofar as when you're buying eggs, because some of the eggs that you might buy could be fake. These are eggs that, I kid you not, there's some really interesting chemistry that goes into making these damn things to make them look real. Essentially, they have some chemical coagulants that they put together in various stages. You have the chemical coagulants that makes up the white of the egg. You have a chemical coagulant that makes up the yellow of the egg, and then they scoop that in there, put it in there, and they put it into these molds that they formulate it's like a calcium carbonate. So like off the shelf calcium carbonate that they crush up, and then they somehow chemistry into fake eggshells. So from the outside, they look like real eggs, but they're not.
But to what end, though? This process sounds like it'd be a hell of a lot more expensive than just simply harvesting fucking chicken eggs.
For whatever reason, I think that the chemicals that they can get are super damn cheap to get a hold of, and they can make a shit ton of these things, and they can substitute, if not the entire dozen eggs or however many, they can substitute a lot of them and save themselves money. They take shells from walnuts and just fill them with concrete.
And glue them back together.
Yes.
You know what? And you know what? People,
the rabbit hole of Chinese fake food is nearly bottomless. I just any given free day you guys got, look up Chinese fake food.
Wasn't there
any leftists who are listening? Just keep that in mind when you rail against the corporate structure here in the West, because they decided to remove 2 pickles from a jar to save $200 million.
At least our walnuts are real.
What's that?
At least our walnuts are real.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
At least the walnuts are real. At least there's pickles in there and they're not fucking made of rubber or shit.
But yeah, it's the tofu dregs, the gutter oil, the fake eggs, the censorship. Everything is so
China's a shithole.
fucked.
China's a shithole full of cruel people who, as Pox calls them, they're fucking bugs.
They are. They are fucking insects.
They do work in a hive kind of operation, right? There
Bro,
are-
I'm telling you, dude. They are evolved insects.
And with that, I think it's time we moved on. The final thought. Irving Twin, do you have any final thoughts for tonight?
Not thoughts.
No.
You never got into Deathbringer, your Deathbringer thing.
Oh yeah, okay. We can move on to that if you want, real quick. It was getting late, so I thought maybe we'd move on. So Deathbringer is fun, folks. I was supposed to play D&D tomorrow with my friends, but one of the number is sick, and I don't want to get sick because I'm going to Virginia next week, and I don't need to be sick going on an airplane. I'm gonna use the Deathbringer rule system to build my my RPG Elf Camino. Irving and Pox are familiar with Elf Camino, but Twin, I don't think you are.
So do I got to remake my orc driver guy again?
Yeah,
The,
it's not gonna be that difficult. It's not gonna be that.
Cool.
No, we had joked about it. Like you had said, "Oh, should I get the Rift's core book?" Because I'm actually getting. It'll be next weekend probably. I'll get my hands on a copy of the core book. And then you were talking
the
about
Ultimate Edition or the 30th Anniversary Edition you're getting.
No, so I'm getting a silverback.
Oh, okay.
All right, it's older, but it's perfectly fine. And it's the nicer cover, I think. But you had said, oh yeah, maybe Elf Camino, you could just work it into the Rifts world because there are similarities, right?
Yeah,
and I made
Rift
some
has a bunch of world books, right? Where they're basically
it has world books, but also they have source books and fucking dimension books and the infinite books. And I was like, Rift's Dimension Book 43, Elf Camino.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I was thinking, I'm like, I was watching some reviews of Rift's Ultimate Edition, and I was like, okay, yeah, I remember the Palladium system. I remember Rifts is based on the Palladium system. I'm like, it sounds like an interesting game. It sounds like the topography of the United States is cool in Rifts, and I'm like, but you know what? I'm really liking the simplicity of the Deathbringer game. It's like D&D, very light, but also gritty. I'm like, I'm just going to adapt it to Elf Camino. All I have to do is add races and make some modern day classes, and it's basically the same fucking game.
True.
So, let's fucking go. I'm down.
All right, how about you, Six? You want to play some Elf Camino?
So kind of Irving and I were talking about this the other day, and I'm on my ADD dialed into the manuscript writing right now, and it's kind of hard to get myself off the rails.
I hear you. It's all good.
Focus
you
on
have some time. When you have some time, we'll include you.
So I gave him like a February, March kind of.
All right. With that being said, let's move on to final thoughts because it's getting late and I'm going to go to bed. So, Mr. Twin, do you have any final thoughts?
Again, not final thoughts. I just I was playing with the AI image generator.
Oh, let's see.
And you guys had come up with your anthropomorphic bat bounty hunter.
Yes.
Right.
It's like 2 feet tall. My little Batman.
Yeah. Can you see these though?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So here's like just a couple of. This is what the AI thinks.
What the hell is in his mouth?
Like a rebreather or something. Maybe he's getting gassed. Who knows?
That's
I like that the AI was like, I have no idea how to make this fucking thing's face, so let's put guns in front of it.
That's cool.
I like the goggles.
That one actually looks pretty good.
Did you do Hamdolf as well?
Yeah. So okay, this is you might meet this character, this one here. But here we go. There. All right. So he's like, pig was coming out really weird. It was making it too cartoonish. So I
Yeah.
went with boar. And
Okay.
then it started getting good. It started getting the idea, right? So you have an anthropomorphic boar wizard. You know.
I love it.
You said you did
Sort
this
of-
with Grok?
No. I can't even remember which AI generator it was.
Oh, I like
was
that
it.
guy a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
That's pretty cool.
I got a buddy of mine in my server who does AI art, and he's actually training his own AI, and he has nothing but trouble trying to get it to do anthropomorphic anything, whether you're trying to get monsters or like badass characters or what.
That's pretty good, that one. The only one thing is, though, he's got 3 fingers on one hand and 4 on the other, but that's okay. That's
His nose looks way too long.
Yeah, it does. He almost looks like an anteater.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Concept art, guys. Concept art. It's
No,
fun.
no,
I
I get it.
I
I get
just
it.
wanted to show you guys these, like, you know.
Oh yeah, Irv, you have a thing I sent you a while back of the. It's in your Discord, I think.
Oh, in Discord. If I open Discord, it's going to start doing 37 updates. So we're not
Okay.
going to find it right now. I can open it, but we're probably still ending the show.
Grok is pretty cool, though. It's pretty robust. It can do some pretty cool stuff.
So I've heard. Yeah, you sent me a picture.
Oh, the machine elves?
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, hey, Grok, draw me a machine elf as described by people on DMT trips. And let's see.
This is gonna be some like fractal nightmare fuel here.
It's just cool.
It's pretty smooth. It's pretty smooth.
Just have to find it. I have to scroll all the way back up.
Anyway, it's a picture. It's a fictionalized version of somebody that yeah.
There it is. I'll share this real quick before we go. Draw a machine elf as described by people who have taken DMT.
Oh. Okay, no, Craig, you have to let me share it now.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry that.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
How do I present?
Ooh, that's cool.
And he really does just look like Gordo. Like, fuck yeah.
Good doggo.
Oh yeah.
That's
cool.
a character from my books.
Cool. Very cool.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah, he's fucking awesome. That's literally how I always saw him anyway.
Yeah.
Except that the hammer was his tail. Like, he could do some serious damage with that fucking thing.
There's a reason why he carries a hammer.
Why is that?
Because Irving is into Warhammer.
Oh. Oh. Yeah.
See, now we need to play riffs because you can make your character. You can make your dog character.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I have to stop looking at it or I'm going to cry.
Doggo's going to have so much plot armor.
Right.
He's got a real awesome backstory.
Mr. Six, do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Other than Chinese gutter oil, it's certainly a subject you shouldn't be looking into if you've been eating. Chinese gutter oil.
Okay, cool. How about you, Pox? You got any final thoughts you want to share?
Just don't fall into the trap of blind faith or idolatry or cult personality. Take everything that's said to you with a grain of salt, and if you actually feel the inkling for more information or knowledge on something involving a spiritual context, seek someone who knows more than you do.
Good advice.
In other words, B, look for a C.
B, look for a C.
No, I'm trying to point him to look for a D. See,
There you go. There you go.
Okay, my final thought is this: my dad, he's getting older. His health is deteriorating. He's no longer as mobile as he used to be. So I've been taking him on a lot of errands of late, and we have to ride an elevator pretty regularly. And every once in a while, we have sex in the elevator,
nigga, what?
and it's wrong on so many levels.
Wait. No, I didn't know we were doing fucking jokes. You had said it. I remember. Okay. Sorry. So Judas.
Sorry, threw you for a loop there.
This is a very, very, what do you call it, topical joke for the night.
All right.
So Judas says to Jesus, "Hey, are you ready for the Last Supper?" And Jesus says, "The what?" He goes, "The supper, the regular supper."
Oh.
That's good.
I ain't got a joke, but I made a Kino Christmas song that if you want to play out, it's about Ethan Ralph.
Yeah, I'll do it.
It'll be in the short section if you just want to pull it up on my channel.
Let's see.
I'm out on my porch, so I don't have anything to pull it up and drop a
Oh,
link.
good.
from.
Yeah, I'll find it. Let's see. Your channel's Pox Toxic, yeah?
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure if you just search for Happy Kino Days, it'll come. Or no, not that one, not that one. What did I call this one? Come Ye Rage Pig Guntleman, I think is what I called it.
Yeah. Oh, come ye rage pig Guntleman. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
One moment.
Come ye rage, big gunnel men, and gather round this fire. For I fled to Mexico to escape the aftermath of my desires. The pills I pop, the debts I dodge, with Xanax I'm much higher. Oh, my life's a mess, my kids distressed, but I don't care, I'm wired. Oh, come ye rage, big gunnel men, and roll in piss-stained sheets. Flee from Minnesota's cold to where the hot sun beats. I'll scream and yell and fight like hell as the light slips through the cracks. For I'm a deadbeat, bad wreck and a drunk, and I'm never going back. In my tin shack, in the sand, I've made a life so grand. With piss bottles everywhere and dust beneath my hands. I tried to flee the child support, but it followed like a curse. Now I'm here with my warrant steer. I'm so bitter and life can't get worse. Oh, come you rage, big gunnel man, and wallow around in shame. The system tried to take my cash, but I won't play that game. I'll scream at cops and flip them off and fight with every breath. For I'm a nightmare of despair, and I'm closer to my death. So gather round, ye rage pig gunnel men, and let us toast to lies. To Xanax highs and missed court dates and broken alibis. I sold my soul for pills and booze, now I'm in Mexico. But my kids still wait, it's too damn late, I'll spend Christmas all alone. Oh, come you rage, big gunnel man, and let's all drink and fight. I've left the past behind me, but I still can't sleep at night. I'll scream and shout till I burn out as rage and guilt collide. For I'm a fool, a drunken tool, and I'll always run and hide. So come you rage, pig gunnel man, and know I've lost my way. In Mexico, with piss-stained clothes, I'll rot till Judgment Day.
Very nice.
Very nice.
I don't know who Ethan Ralph is, but he sounds like a character.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we can deep dive one day when you got some time. I'll introduce you.
I'm sure Tom Dark's done something.
Craig, if you think Chinese gutter oil's a deep dive, you haven't seen Ethan Ralph.
Yeah, you're
Worse than
talking
Boogie
Jesus
9888
Christ.
or Boogie 1988 or whatever his name is.
Because he got started during Gamergate, so he's coming up on 10 years of deep lore, I think.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ.
What do you think of the theory that it's Tom Dark? It's Tom Dark's dick that Destiny was sucking.
I'm convinced.
You think it was Tom Dark's dick? The fact that he hasn't done a video about it, you know what I mean? Like
he did, and he couldn't quit giggling, and he kept asking his chat. It was on from one of his live streams, I think.
oh
He's
really?
like, do you think this man's worn a plug while I was around him? There's a non-zero chance that it happened.
There is a non-zero chance that it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, which is funny because that was the first thing I said. But about national TV, I was like, "There's a non-zero chance this man went on Pierce Morgan with a plug in his butt."
Oh, probably. You know what I think it is? Like you see, he's doing these debates, right? And his wife was dancing with that femboy ski instructor, whatever the fuck he was, behind his back while he's live streaming and stuff. I think Destiny, because every time he does a debate, I mean, he can talk. He's not a complete idiot, but he's handily beaten most times when he's debating, and I think he's got a humiliation fetish. I think he likes being humiliated. I think that's his kink.
Underneath his desk, just like a raging boner at being berated. I mean,
Yeah.
holy shit! I used probably like jizzing right and left when he got his ass kicked by Medicare.
Well, I haven't seen the Medicare debate.
Oh, it was brutal.
Medicare's hilarious. I bet you fucking.
Yeah, that was years ago too.
What's his name? Andrew Wilson, I think, debated him too, right? Andrew Wilson debated Vosh and fucking just tore Vosh apart.
Andrew Wilson is a fucking master, dude. Like
He's good. He's good. Yeah, I like watching clips from the Whatever podcast. I can't watch the whole fucking thing, but I like watching the clips.
it's actually why I was late showing up to watch your all stream because I was watching him do a debate. He was debating whether or not men were responsible for the current state of the world or something like that. I'd have to go back and look at the prompt, but it's pretty interesting.
I think everybody bears a little bit of responsibility, but women mostly. But us, because we gave women the right to vote. That's the thing.
That was pretty much Wilson's stance, was that men don't. It's pretty much the fault of women because we have all of the responsibility, but none of the benefit from it or agency. Like we have all these.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we have we have all these expectations heaped on us, but we're not allowed to reap the benefits of them.
Yeah, because our society's become feminized. You ever read Cerebus the Aardvark?
No.
Cerebus the Aardvark is a black and white comic strip that's been going forever. And it's a very, very scattered sort of release schedule. Dave Sim may have even stopped publishing, but Dave Sim's the writer and creator of Cerebus the Aardvark. And at the end of his comic books, he always had like a 4 or 5 page diatribe, and it was always about how women have destroyed Western civilization. So if you could find some of Dave Sim's rants and essays, they're worth a read. Because he was way before this fucking trend of shitting on women. He was doing this back 20 years ago. He was talking about this shit. So,
And another point he brought up was we don't bear the responsibility because we've been stripped we've had the ability to lead stripped from us, basically. So if we can't lead anybody in the right direction. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And that goes from the top on down to your household, right? Like was one of the points that he made. Like essentially, you can't even lead your own household because there's absolutely nothing stopping your spouse from walking out and just getting a divorce. And there's more. You know what I mean? And you can't play the role of disciplinarian or correct anyone because then there's nothing stopping insane consequences from that, right? Depending on you know, how
So-
you
so
what your idea of discipline is
It all started with women's suffrage.
or correction.
It's all started with women's suffrage. So my question is, was women's suffragette movement, was that a Jewish plot?
Probably every time.
I'm
According to Jewish
curious to
women,
find
yeah.
out who started the women's suffrage movement and where
No.
it got its get-go.
So yeah, there's
Suffer
articles.
women.
There's articles written by Jewish women proudly declaring how it was Jewish women.
Well, there you
Oh,
go.
really?
You see, we'll get you there. Your power level will be up to par with ours here soon, Craig. You'll get that, brother.
All right, folks. With that, I think we're going to call it a night. We're coming on 3 hours now. I first put the final thoughts thing up about 40 minutes ago, but we kept talking. It's all good. I'm having a great time. This is fun having this many people, and you guys should get your cameras going so we can have a full-on
Four-way.
chat.
Oh, I don't do cameras, brother. I can't.
All right, well, that's good. Folks, thanks for coming out. Thanks for joining us for Ammunation. Next week, I'm going to be in Chesapeake, Virginia, playing in an airsoft event called Rev Rift. Looking forward to that. So there will be no live stream on this channel. I don't know if Twin's going to host something, but maybe you folks will get lucky.
Ooh, and wait, what day is that?
That's Saturday.
This coming
Saturday,
Saturday.
Sunday. This coming Saturday and Sunday, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I've got a thing on Saturday, and rather than try and rush it, I was going to say no Saturday, no
All right,
no casual. So
we'll skip a week and then we'll do casual when I get back. Actually, that'll probably be putting us into Christmas. So who knows what's going to happen?
yeah, we'll see what's what.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us. Had a lot of fun. Thanks for popping in at 6 and Pox. It was great having you on board. And with that, I think we're going to end the stream. We'll play the outro. Stick around for the outro because I worked so hard on it.